Hello everyone, welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for the happy anniversaries. Thank you, thank you, thank you. 7 years Twitch affiliate anniversary. And yeah, I couldn't have done it without you guys. Oh, I just realized I didn't even put on my ears, so hold on, I gotta fix this. And before Crowley requests, we'll start with the black ones tonight. Why not? Let's live on the wild side. We got this. But yeah, so yeah. We're here. I've got my community set up. They're joining us. They're going to be playing some games with us tonight. For all of you new to my channel, I am a variety streamer. I play community games. I play Genshin. I do art streams. I play Stardew Valley, marbles, golf. I don't know. You name it. It's some odd and end games there, here and there. But welcome everyone. And thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for lurking and listening. And Simi Diaz, thank you for being here, guys. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Let me go grab my community, and then I have some interesting things to say, so I'll be right back. Hold on, let's go grab them. If I can find them in this mess. There we go. Okay, so I totally got sidetracked there for a second. Things, stuff, everyone. Okay, let's go grab them. Hi everyone, we're live. Welcome to the stream. We have BattleCat. We have Joffrey. We have Lady Rain. We have Michigan. We have Splints, Wiggles, and Racing Tank, and who else is here? Hello, welcome, hello.
Oh, hi, hello.
Try to see.
You snuck in.
Hello.
See, this is the tricky part when you're streaming and Discord goes into stringer mode. They only give you one letter for the person's name, and you have to remember who that icon belongs to. So I have a letter H and an icon, and I'm like, wait, whose icon is that? It looks very familiar. I know I've seen it 500 times, but who is it? It's Hollow. It's like, great. And when you go to profile, because you're streaming, it still doesn't tell you the name.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my gosh, who's my friend in here?
That's why I said it.
Yep, that's like weird.
Oh boy,
Now,
I really haven't played this in a while. I'm a white ball.
now I think it does stand out if somebody's added a nickname. Then it holds it. So that's interesting. So if I just add a nickname, the next time he jumps in, it shows up 100%. That's cool. Okay. Now we got that figured out.
I can only do it through PayPal? What?
But alright guys, welcome to the stream. Welcome. We're gonna play some golf today. Thank you for being here. I have sort of an interesting story. I was struggling with my internet at the start of stream and I had to restart everything, so that was a challenge.
Oh, hello, child.
Hello.
I'm gonna put my headset on and he wants to say hi.
Oh, okay.
Hello.
Say hi, Mom.
Hi, baby Hollow. Hello. But so I decided since my internet wasn't working, I had time to make fried rice real quick. Just microwave it. And I like adding soy sauce to my fried rice, my Chinese chicken fried rice here. So I was adding soy sauce and doing it, and I was like, this bottle doesn't coming out like it normally does. And I pay attention. I put Worcestershire sauce on my, however you say that, Worcestershire sauce on my rice.
Sister sauce.
I put it on my rice. It's not bad, but it's not the same thing. I ended up putting soy sauce on top of it, so now it's just gonna be really salty. I've tasted it. It's okay, but it's not the same as Whiskey Roosters. Everybody say
more tangy than what you would like, I'm sure.
yeah. Everybody say Worcestershire sauce.
Worcestershire
I can't. I'm never gonna try it. I know I can't say it.
Worcestershire sauce.
Worcestershire.
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 It's so stupid.
That's
Or
like
I
one of the
think it's
hardest
actually
words to say.
Worcestershire.
Worcestershire.
Sure.
Worcestershire. Can we just add the rolling R's in there somewhere and just forget it? Worcestershire.
Worcestershire.
We'll make it pirate sauce. There we go.
It's
Like,
always
what the heck?
sauce.
What the heck? But yes, I do have golf up, and do we have 12? We might have 12 players, almost. Alright, we're gonna get started on some golf in just a second if everybody's here and ready.
Yep.
And if you are interested in joining my community in my Discord, !Discord to join the community. Once I get to know you, chatting offline, and then I allow people to come and join my community games and hang out with me live. But I have to get to know you first, which is awesome. I like making new friends.
We gotta start Mono off strong. Hydrate.
Capital K.
Oh, drink water.
That is correct, yes.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. My bad.
Drink water. I
Yeah.
don't drink water, I drink Mono.
Water and wine.
All are terrible at keeping secrets.
Hi.
I'm joking. Don't
Hi,
listen.
Turtle.
I'm a jerk.
I don't have it, but it doesn't matter in the end.
Hmm.
Nothing.
What's the secret? Drugs.
It's a secret.
Drugs.
No.
No.
It's a secret
Alright.
to everybody.
I'm a
All right, we're gonna start with Candyland.
Go.
Um,
That's
Splint's
right.
favorite, right? Just kidding. We're unforced. Hi, Shane. Welcome. Are you joining this round or next?
Yeah. Let me jump on right quick.
Okay.
Jump on it.
Is this the most we ever had?
Michigan
in
is
the-
blowing kisses in chat. Look at you.
It's been
We've
the
had
most in a
3
while.
No, we've maxed out at 12 several times.
Yeah.
It's been a little bit though. That's fair
Mhm.
enough to say.
We've had more than
Mhm.
12 at one point, haven't we?
I think we had a full game.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't
we've had to
remember what that
wait for
is.
people to take turns. The full is 12. The max is 12. So
Actually,
you have to
yeah,
wait.
y'all let me go to the store. I couldn't believe that. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Can I have
Why didn't
can
you
I
just
have-
drop and make a new one?
Can I have AI play for me?
Help catch Pokemon.
Only if you go AI.
I'm too lazy to catch Pokemon.
Haven't we done it once, like a while ago, to where we tried to get everybody in at once and I had to do 2 different games instead?
Yeah, that was weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've had to take turns.
Mm. That's right. I think that was during one of the fundraisers, wasn't it?
I think
Probably.
True fundraiser events.
Fundraisers, anniversary screams. That kind of screams, anniversary screams. Now Rain needs to scream again.
Okay.
Speaking of which,
Mhm.
happy
I thought you said
Working on it.
green.
Thank you.
There you go. Let's scream again.
Ooh. Burn. Retaliate. There you go, Splits. You burnt me, I licked you. It's only fair.
You say I lick you,
Somebody put out
Yes.
Kimono's butt.
and I'm like licking. There's a
Well,
joke
when
and
you
no
go to
licking
Kimono's
shit.
chat, you can lick people. Yes.
Yes, you can lick people.
You can also burn the briskets.
If you've earned enough cookies, you can lick people.
Yeah, you
Where's
can
that
kiss
bucket of
them.
water?
Ooh,
And you simply
baby.
earn cookies by hanging out and lurking.
Okay.
Chat.
Is it cookies
No.
2? I don't remember.
I don't even remember.
I don't accept.
I don't remember. That's not the command.
Sorry.
What's
I'm
the
making
command
a
to show
list.
how many cookies you have? I mean, not cookies, but the cookie commands.
Subs, I think.
No, that's the sound ones for the subs. But yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember how many
Man.
cookies. I probably have a lot.
There
I don't know.
you go. That worked. That was right.
Probably command.
Pretty much.
It is cookies,
No.
but it wasn't working. Wait, no, it was.
No,
It
let's
told
see.
you how many you had. It said like.
Oh, is it?
Fight Inco 1900.
No, there's commands that go with cookies, but it's being
No, at the
clunky.
end, I think it said.
Did it? 5 years, 7 months. That's crazy.
And
You
also.
can also do. Yeah. So there's 2 different bots that go hand in hand when you do commands. That's why you get multiple.
Wait, Mrs. Forrest, I thought we were going to Candyland.
No, we're doing forest.
Thank you for the giant
Hey,
hat.
You were
Thank you,
prepared
thank you,
to
thank you,
do
thank
that, like first off the bat.
you.
Jeez.
Gigabyte and emote.
Why on earth
Yeah, I
are
was
no
picking on you.
shops in Candyland?
I did say
Oh, God,
Candyland
it's
just
been
to
so long
harass
since
you.
I played this.
What?
Oh,
Yes,
yeah,
it's actually
I'll
good.
mess up.
Come on.
No!
Ah.
Remember, S is not stop.
I could have got a hole in one, but.
Shit.
When you're
Only if it
boss-
was speed off, then S
I
would be
messed up
stop.
real bad. But I'm still in third.
Ah, you bitch.
No!
Good lord, don't touch me.
I think somebody want me to. Barely.
Ah, too strong.
I should have waited.
You have to say who bumps you, or else it's just no. You have to start a fight, right?
It's
Cheers.
about to go down.
It's been so long since I've joined, I don't remember how to say your name.
KimonoKat? Oh, Shane.
it's
Just say
Shane.
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 Shame.
I couldn't remember. It's been so long.
Hasn't been that long, has it?
I
Probably.
haven't been able to join in a year or so.
Oh, wait.
Well, welcome back.
I wouldn't look.
It's hard.
Oh, okay. Oh, hey, yeah, I wasn't even paying attention to the other.
He's so used to us, you know, being weirdos.
Your voice just blended in with the
He's
rest
like,
of us.
"Geez, I was just here like a couple weeks ago."
Dude, I was just here yesterday. I
Hey.
was just sitting in chat by myself.
Woo!
You have to ignore.
I got
You have to
smacked.
ignore me.
Ah,
work-
close.
I worked today, and I feel like I got hit by a truck. So you have to overlook me.
I was blind.
Trucks. Trucks are
How
evil.
big was the truck? I was trying to make a joke. I said, "How big was the truck?"
It was an 18-wheeler today.
Oh, so
Yeah.
18-wheeler? Oh god.
That's a big.
It do be one of those days. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Scooby-Doo.
My.
Oh, wait,
my-
I went to the
oh,
Dude, I was gonna get a
no!
hole. I'm gonna start fighting people.
Someone hit me
I
a little
literally-
too hard.
No.
Someone push me in, please. Can someone put me
double
in?
bogey.
That's the
yucky.
second time I
Little
almost
tap.
got a.
Can't see you.
Oh,
Oh,
thanks.
Woohoo!
Hole in one.
barely, but I
I
got it.
should have had a hole in one on 2 of them.
I don't know who hit me, but thank you.
That was me.
Thanks.
Sorry, computer glitched for a second.
Alright.
Still getting used to it.
I got a 4 on that.
Mhm.
No, I should be 2 above. Like, you guys cheat.
Least favorite hole here.
Hole in one.
I'm gonna give you a hole. Ah!
Sorry.
This is the one I usually.
I
mess
wasn't
up on the
making
first
it
time.
anyways.
Oh, that was
Pole.
I wouldn't have had I not hit you, to be honest.
Normally I get like 10 on this.
I hit the pole.
Well,
Oh,
There's gonna be a hole in one. The pole's all like, nah.
you can pick another career. You don't have to always hit the pole. I support.
Oh, I totally messed that up.
Time to get
I'm
serious.
not doing
on.
well either.
Me.
Someone dump me a
Okay,
little.
someone Michigan, that was a little too harsh of a tap.
I just came. Wait a minute. I just came flying. I came
Right.
flying in. I was just like, "What's up, everybody?"
You did what?
Strokes.
I would be doing so well.
man, that's a lot
Mhm.
of 14s on the score.
I've been hit so many
Oh,
times.
who hit me?
You
Damn you.
bitch!
I actually waited for you guys.
You
to
guys giving
go
each other love
there.
taps over there?
All of
That
them.
was
I
like
actually
a.
waited for the first time. I waited for everybody to go, and I was like,
I like how I'm driving
"Bitch, I'm
NASCAR
tired
for a
of getting
second.
Somebody
Yeah, I get
I've been hit
impatient and I
so
go
many
too quick.
hit." Sorry. Drugs. Anyways,
You guys are taking forever.
I did
Whoa,
wait.
Y'all hitting on
somebody
each other?
knocked me off the board twice.
I
I
was
did
the
wait.
second time. I don't know who did it the first
Assholes.
time.
Rubbin's
Assholes.
racing. Okay.
Mine was on purpose. I'm pretty sure the first one was
Dude.
not.
I already know if we go a left turn after a left.
Ah, you bitch.
Do you know how they have the chocolate koalas or whatever? Apparently they make
I don't know.
mango ones too. They don't really do as good as the strawberry and chocolate. Just give you guys a heads up.
Interesting.
I will
They
finish
just want
them because it's food. But chocolate and strawberry are so much better.
They just want
Mona,
the
I've
packaging,
never
it's
seen
so
those
cute.
before. What in the world?
The mango
Oh, they
ones?
want the pack.
Koala
There.
cracker?
I've never seen it.
I
Have
don't-
you never seen the strawberry or chocolate ones?
No, I've never seen that before. A chocolate koala. I was like, what in the hell was that?
The cookies
This is
are-
Japanese snack.
Oh, okay.
You can get them in places.
Myers.
Splint,
Yeah, I've
I
never
done
seen it.
deleted your message so that
Oh,
when other
okay.
people come in.
They have like a cream filling on the inside.
in the chat. The
Oh,
past
They're kind of like
Yeah.
Pocky flavored normally, if
I
that
thought
makes
this
sense.
was
Too strong.
restricted.
Okay.
I didn't know.
Like the cookies on the outside though, and the
try
Pocky
not to
flavoring
use
is like
that.
on the inside.
Got us in trouble last time.
Oh, that's
Did you hit me?
6, welcome to the stream.
Whoops.
Can somebody
Thank you
hit
for the
me?
follow. Thank you,
Somebody hit me hard.
Alex. Thank you so much. Welcome.
Can somebody hit me hard, please?
We can give you a gentle
It-
caress.
I'm afraid
Yeah.
not.
Oh yeah.
You.
A little tappy, tap, tap, taparoo, if you will.
Be quiet.
Tap, tap, tap,
Flint's, I
Michigan,
thought
you're
we
so
were friends.
close.
Bro, I couldn't have gone in if I hit you.
Flint's, I thought we were friends.
If I hit you, I would not have gone in.
Well, you have to take one for the team.
Oh yeah.
It was.
I had been. Look at the earlier games.
You guys.
Marketing.
How goes it, Alex? Welcome, 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 welcome to the stream.
Damn it.
I fucked that up.
It's been a
I'm
while.
gonna wait until
It's been a while.
Oh my.
Because it seems
Since
like
I
I
don't know who
made
hit me.
pie.
Oh,
but
no.
awful.
you guys suck
I got
for a
hit
while.
when I was off-roading.
No! Yes!
I got hit off-roading and it did not help. It made it worse.
Shane.
I was like, what?
I really have no idea who hit me. It's great.
Jacqueline, why are you back?
Yeah,
Really?
I've got.
I'm on the ball.
It is definitely a little bit more interesting with more people like this. That's fun.
I know, because you have to worry about getting
Can
hit.
you imagine trying to do speed golf right now?
That's like
Oh,
J3's
what?
hacks. No,
I got
yeah,
a
because you
hard
can't
one.
wait.
We're
Because I
also too
waited.
short from a full game too.
Mm-hmm.
We're not even a full
I
game
waited
yet.
for you guys so I can get a hole in one. I was like, let's just let them go.
Hi, Afro. Welcome to the stream. Thank
Oh,
you
wait,
for
this is
the
wrong one.
Hey,
anniversary hype. Thank you, thank you,
Why?
thank
You not
you.
going anywhere?
Tomorrow turned 7 today.
Welcome all to
Oh.
the stream. Yeah, I'm 7 now. I'm 7. Yep.
Nice try.
7.
Don't worry.
It's been an adventure. You guys have been here with
Whoa,
me
hold on. I'm
through
gonna
all
fight
kinds of
somebody.
craziness,
I'm fighting you.
and I appreciate each and every one of you.
Nessie's gone.
You hit me. Somebody hit me.
He's
Sorry.
a, he's
Here.
oh
I
he's
was
he's
trying to give you a
he's at an
ricochet, but
elevated
it didn't
level.
work.
I
I
thought you
tried to
were
give it
fight.
too much
It was like-
power.
That's rude. We can't see him.
I can fix that.
We can't see Nessie.
I might lose a
Sure, I
light, but I can fix it.
I didn't
Sorry.
hit you that hard. Sorry.
You might lose me. I might disappear.
Oh, that sounds about right.
Oh no.
What?
Wriggles, I
What?
could hit you.
Why?
Because
Not enough
Well,
power.
it's
I
too
don't
quick.
know.
Oh, now I gotta stand
we're
up.
still going.
Just sneaking around Shane.
Dang it.
He did get elevated.
Yeah, his head's cut off that way. Oh no, I hit the light.
Word.
There, he's up there. It's kind of blurry today though. You can see him as clear.
Mm-mm.
As long as they don't burn in the light bulb, I'm fine with it.
But yes, they're talking about Nessie, my Loch Ness monster ladle up there.
Mm-hmm.
Told you not to give that Loch Ness monster to your video.
I don't have to buy a raisin desk.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, it somehow got in there a week ago.
He's so sweet.
No.
Yeah, yeah. My special guest brought him in. Like, stole him from the kitchen
Still,
and brought him in here.
That was hilarious.
And I didn't even know for a while.
I'm
be
sorry,
honest,
Saffron, I was trying to get out of your way.
It
If
so
I
looked
had
like it
not
belonged.
said anything, you would never have noticed.
Probably not until after
I still
stream.
got a birdie.
Or the next day.
Mm-hmm. Maybe not even that, because we didn't go in there.
got an eagle if I
Yep. Well, depends on whether. Yeah, because I wouldn't work
Oh, I
until. Mm-hmm. Probably not till Monday.
No, no, no.
Aw.
Thank you.
Stay.
Absolutely will.
Thanks, Hollow.
Ah,
Woo!
curling.
Shane, you're lucky.
Rock and roll.
Add into the chaos.
Oh, I didn't get up high enough. No.
I didn't get high
That's not really the problem.
enough.
Now you
No,
gotta push that
I
I'm the
was just
crowd
copying
limit
what you're
scene.
saying.
So what's the problem?
Hi, how are you?
No problem. We're not talking about problems with it.
How high are you?
Oh.
How are
Good
you?
yourself. Wow, after all that, I still got only a bogey. I thought it was going to be way worse.
That's one of those.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's a par 5.
The other part 5. Yeah. But this
Shane's
whole
catching up to me because I'm not paying attention.
this whole
Mhm,
means a
mhm.
lot to
What,
me.
42? Yep.
Dang it, I
Also-
must have holding noon.
Can somebody hit me real quick? Because this hole means a lot to me.
Maybe.
Just a
You're welcome.
little
This is where
touch.
standing and playing golf does not benefit.
It worked. I got a hole in 1. You're welcome.
You know how
could've got
you know how a
almost-
game makes you jump? I jumped and I just about fell backward.
I am still not sure how I'm missing this hole.
Can I get some bros to help
I
me
just
out?
about fell
You
backwards.
go to the
'cause-
top of the V,
Oh,
and you just roll
dang
in.
it.
Or just push me away, whatever.
Because I put down this new carpet on the floor and it's like
Yeah,
super
you
soft
use
and
gravity
slippery
and
too.
everything. I just try to go straight in.
Dude, I could have gotten a hole in 1, but everybody was shoving me away
The gray
from
one
this
that
hole.
was in the.
Jesus.
No, this is
studio?
a pink one, like the gray
Oh,
one.
Sorry, only
It was in the
32.
dryer when you were here.
The songs,
Oh.
all I'm hearing over here is a bunch of wah wah wah. I suck at
Wah,
this
wah,
game.
wah,
Wah, wah, wah, wah, wah, wah.
Go!
I had a
No
chance to win it all.
Do 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 do
No.
Doo
You're the
doo.
one who did that, not me.
I got a friend.
do 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 do.
Shane,
hold.
you touched me.
Uh-oh.
Just
I
get
touched
it.
the freaking
Get in before
thing.
everybody
No.
starts touching
I
me.
could have gotten a birdie, but you touched me.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm not
I got
gonna
a
wait
birdie.
there.
Can you guys keep your hands, or paws to yourselves?
I'm-
Or even worse, your
That's not a
balls to
problem.
yourselves?
Stop it. Get out of here.
Well, my balls are to myself because they're connected. No, what?
Sorry, I can't keep my balls to myself.
I would make a comment, but I better not.
You should.
I keep my...
You should make a comment.
Well, it was a hospital-related comment, so it was gonna
Oh
be
no.
graphic.
Oh boy.
Oh no.
Even better. Hell yeah, I got Pokemon.
Yeah?
Huh?
Get off
No!
me, log!
Dang it!
Then I didn't give it
jump in
quite the
there?
right
That's
angle,
amazing.
but that's okay.
Shit.
Yeah.
Dang it!
Shit.
Fantastic jump.
I missed the jump again.
Oh, I hate this one.
Jump!
Oh no.
Ugh.
Jump, jump, you guys got it.
I'm sorry, Jeffron. I didn't think you would go upwards.
Guys, make sure Mono and Shane don't win.
I'm so sorry.
Well, I'm
Well,
not
Shane,
gonna
what?
win now.
I was gonna say it's a bit late for Shane.
What do I
Yeah,
not
it's
do?
Gonna be...
Jeffron, I'm so sorry. I did not think that would happen.
Finally.
Not win.
Dang.
Oh.
Well, I
I
screwed that
could
one
have
up, so
shot
it's gonna be
Mono out
Mono.
of the area.
Well, that's
Did
a...
anyone ever
Nice and stuff.
notice? So there's a gingerbread man behind those trees.
I did. He's
Yeah.
creepy as heck.
I think he's newer, though. I don't think he was always there until, like, maybe
But now it's there, but-
9 months to a year ago. I don't know. He
But
appeared
now it
during
makes
one of an
more
update.
sense for us to go to Candyland right
There
after
you
Forest
Yeah,
like we
so
usually
I can
do.
that.
Yeah, we can't even do
18,
forest.
It took me 18 shots.
So, the fact that we can't even get through forest means,
Did anybody get 69? Damn it.
I got 80.
yeah. That's so
Wiggles was 20
cute.
Wiggles was 11 off.
So cute. Dingo, 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 dingo. I didn't get to read the message, but I heard it and I saw it, and it's cute.
Well,
Come on, let me go over to stream.
It's from the community.
No,
Oh, I got a top hat. Lovely.
continue.
All right, Mono. I guess you can be short.
I can be short.
Yeah, you can lower your dust now.
Okay, is that better?
You could be short.
You could be a little bit less taller.
Silent, happy 7
Little
years.
less
Thank you,
baller.
Silent. Welcome to the
I
stream.
Mhm.
I can't fix her height, whether it's short or taller, but I mean, she could always just adjust her desk.
I mean, if we're making
Ah.
Mono shorter, then doesn't the dust need to go higher?
Maybe.
Yeah,
no,
but I need
because
to make
her,
her
her
taller.
chair stays low. Then.
What?
Does your chair sit low? Does your desk go to and fro? I don't know.
Jeez. The chaos.
Splints?
The mess. No.
You
I
did
got
what?
it. That's so
No, I read the
Community?
message. Read the message.
From the community. You
Me too.
guys. You guys are nuts. Thank you.
I don't
What
know
happened?
who that Sphinx guy is. Who is
What do we
Oh
miss?
my gosh.
We donated $7 a hole for the last round.
Oh.
Oh my gosh. I wonder if I can get it to replay. I'm trying to get it to replay because
Let's see, there's 18 holes times 7. I really don't want to do any more math.
Okay, this is-
I don't know how to re-
72 times 2. 144.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
7 times?
Jeez.
It was 126.
Yeah, that's 126.
Wait. Oh,
7
yeah.
times
But thank
18.
you guys. I'm like,
One
what?
number up. Yeah, sorry.
You added the 19th hole.
No, no.
Math is not required to play golf.
We don't talk about the 19th hole.
Well, technically,
Well,
that
well.
would not be true if we involve subtraction.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I don't know
okay.
who's
Can I
round,
try?
Like,
Who
not
is-
not round, because a round is 18 holes. So basically, it was 126
No, that's a
round.
pentagon. That's a pentagon.
You guys, well, thank you. You guys did. You guys, that's gonna come in handy. There's a few more stream things I want to buy since I moved and set up my art studio. That's
Yeah. I don't know who Splints is, but he seems like a good person.
It was the community.
it was from all of
I
you
was just the
guys.
mechanism.
He's just the collector. Did the tongs? I got them here. I didn't even open them yet, Silent. I didn't even open them yet. Hold on.
Yeah, you weren't here last week, Silent.
I waited. I made Lady
wasn't
Rain
even
wait.
there.
She was here live, and I made her wait.
I was.
So,
Everything made her
thank you for the 700 biddies. Oh my gosh.
I still took
mean,
her
I-
to bed though.
I waited 2 hours for something.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I gotta open it.
I had to stop eating.
She's
just for
so
that.
bad. Put a picture on Snapchat and send it to everybody.
You're
Who uses
absolutely welcome,
Snapchat
Silent.
Let's
Not
see. Yes, thank you, thank you. These are gonna be the kudos. These are from Silent. Check it out, check it out.
Did you get the snacky tongs?
Yes.
Oh my god.
Right.
Her girl
Well,
dinner.
Catch
No,
cat
Chiefs.
tongs. They're kitty cat ones. So they're gonna go hand in hand with the Stardew cookbook when I get in the kitchen and do a
No,
cooking
yeah.
stream.
Your fingers are keyboard.
So
No, yeah,
if I
yeah,
can figure out how to
it
get them
keeps
out
our
of the
fingers,
thing.
yeah.
Oh, there's a
It's
twist
customary.
tie.
When you pick them up to clack them 3 times in a row. It's just customary.
Is it?
Yes.
Yes.
And then you have to hit wood.
Since when did? Wow, how did I not know this?
Dog's real live,
Hey,
by
Nugs.
the way.
Look, they're so
Hold up.
cute. They're pink.
Hello.
They're little kitty cat paws. Okay, okay. There you go, Splints. 3 times.
Okay, those are really awesome.
It's a requirement. You have to clank.
It is.
You have to
Yep.
clack 3 times.
Yeah.
Every time you pick
Now
them
I
up.
want to pick up things.
You have to
Hey.
make sure they're working. Yeah.
Hey,
Yep.
Split.
Oh, I can eat Cheetos with these on stream. I forget the chopsticks. I got cat paws.
Computer dirty.
Hey,
That way I don't
Split,
get my keyboard dirty with the potato chips.
Getting your mouse and keyboard all greasy, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Split, I
Yep.
don't know if you'd be down, but I'd be down to finish that episode later if you want.
Look,
Yes.
they have little paw prints on the inside. You can see like the little paw pads, the toe beans and such. You can see the toe beans.
Oh, bye.
But hi,
I'm
Nux.
so
He doesn't
sorry that
usually
he.
typically hang out.
No, I literally said he didn't want to like interrupt. I guess.
I wish he just sent me text.
Everybody
message.
knows this, Silent.
That's something you would do.
No, he would never. Oh, he might.
Drink water.
He's so,
Okay.
he's so
Either or.
bombastic.
Either or.
Is he talking about Star Trek?
Yeah, he
Oh,
wants to
and
finish
this
his
is Hello
episode.
Kitty. Of course. So
Anyways,
started-
hello,
I started with
cat.
the Snuggie on, and I was gonna stream in the Snuggie, but then I was having internet issues, and it got too hot because I was frustrated. So I was like, nope, Snuggie's off already. It's too hot. Or Udi, not Snuggie, Udi. Posture
I need
check.
a Snuggie.
I will be right back.
Yeah.
Okay,
Please don't start up.
posture. Okay. I'll hit
No,
the start button.
we
And
just
we'll put it
finished
in we'll put it in speed golf mode.
Well,
No,
then
I'll
I
wait.
win then.
Wiggles were
'cause-
starting.
Oh, wait a
to-
minute. Go. Oh. Has anybody got any of the Pokemon cards from the Happy Meals? Happy Meals have Pokemon cards right now. And stickers.
No, that takes
I
money.
was scammed twice yesterday.
You still have the Hello Kitty
I-
water bottle fleece
Your
blanket?
scam is just they give you
Aww.
I
nothing.
managed to succeed today because I went to a different
Heated
location.
plushie. So cool.
Yeah, it's typically.
You went
But
to
now
a
I have a
different location.
Rayquaza. I didn't have a Rayquaza before.
Wait, how
Huh.
often do you go to McDonald's?
Well, she was
I
trying to
don't
at
know.
least get
Because
one
I
pack.
want that rare. so
Usually
I might
when
go every day.
Pokemon cards are in there, we definitely go to McDonald's.
Conveniently, there's one literally not even.
It's how they get them.
Heated
that
plushie.
far
That
from
sounds so
work,
cute.
So, like, I go on my lunch break.
And you have to buy a
So-
Happy Meal to get
Oh.
those cards?
Yes, of course.
Yes. There's the card pack. I
Actually,
think
I
the
have
camera's
meals
still
in
over
person,
here
not
for when
in
Lady
Walmart.
Rain's here. That's Well,
if I
then
ever
you
go to
can't see
McDonald's
Nessie.
and I
No,
get
she is there in
cards, I will
spirit.
send them to somebody because I don't collect Pokemon.
I gotta
cards.
fix
If we ever
this.
go, if I get cards, I'll send them to somebody.
there.
Mm-hmm.
But you
That's
have
when
to-
I
Anyway.
go though. I
Jamie,
don't
but
think.
you have to get the
You
Happy
could always
Meal.
send them to me.
Oh yeah. Well, I know that.
And then there are
You could always send them to me.
stickers.
But that's when if we ever go.
And
we don't
then
really
there's
eat
like
out
a
that
wing.
much.
So I guess you put him together.
Oh yeah, no. This is what you do. You put
There's
the
a puzzle.
thing on the back of the. Yeah,
It's a sticker that's supposed to be part of the.
yeah. So
Yeah, I
Map.
dropped it.
Umbreon wasn't there. I had to put Umbreon in the spot.
We
But
It's
you
a-
have to
it's a
complete the
poster.
Pokemon.
Yeah.
The
Kimono
happy
can't
stream,
understand this.
Rishi. Thank you,
Yeah, so this is the
Snappy.
one that I have.
That's fun.
Okay, so
Bye.
here's the poster.
I have time to grab a snack.
Oh.
Oh, yours got Maridon, Crydon, and Dragonite with Pikachu. I love
What's on
that.
the
And then the
side.
other side is where you put the
It's-
stickers.
Yeah, there it is. There it is.
Yeah, little.
You gotta
puzzle.
put the stickers in the missing spots.
Let me do
Yeah.
this.
What do you?
So-
What
I
if
already
I
did
don't
that
know
on
what a
mine.
wing looks like?
So
This- Well, the orange one would need the orange wing. So
They
you would put
label
the
it.
orange wing
Also, like the
like
poster
that.
also has the numbers according to the sticker.
Oh, they're numbered too.
What
So
if I
they're
can't
they're
count?
sticker
What if
by
you literally
numbers,
can't
so you
count?
can't get it wrong. They're sticker by
And
number.
I'm a perfectionist, and I got it as perfect.
Gotta
Perfect. as I
figure
could.
out how to. Either
Well,
way, if I
can't
move the
count,
camera, you're
then I
not gonna
don't
see
know what a
Nessie.
wing is.
But I felt like I was being chopped off. It's either me or Nessie, so I guess it's Nessie.
No, I'm just curious about.
Never
your
bring
closet.
up. Never around the closet. Oh yeah,
I'm just curious about the closet.
the closet. This one, right here. This is where the boogeyman lives.
Yeah, I had to wait a couple seconds. Yeah.
Oh, really? Because I thought that was under the bed.
There we go.
No,
And in the
no.
closet?
This one is in the closet. It's in the closet. It's cleaning out this closet one more time.
Okay, the closest thing to the boogeyman I can find in here is my Hello Kitty mummy. So.
Dude, that's scary. What the? Put that back.
Oh,
Hello
my
Kitty
wife
mummy in
would
the
want
closet. So cute.
I'm scared. I'm leaving. That's
And then we gotta open these cards. Everybody back yet? I don't even know.
Wiggles is still wiggling
Okay.
around. I don't know.
He's still wiggling. Okay, so I got time to open these cards and see what we got.
Yeah,
Damn,
you
now
got
I
time.
got
At least
you
it's not the
guys on the
X-rated
left.
Hello
got-
Kitty.
Her stream.
I
on
know,
the- on
Jamie. You don't
the
have to say it.
I haven't seen that.
Skip.
I'm gonna spare my eyes and keep Hello Kitty innocent and cute. Yeah, don't search it. Okay, yeah. Okay. So, here you go. First one is Quacksire.
Yeah.
You apologize, what? You're back.
So I
It's okay.
apologize. I take Benson.
She's opening cards, so.
Evie.
Cool.
I have side entertainment until everybody's back. Charizard. And
Classic.
Pikachu.
Pika.
Peekaboo. So cute. We're opening a Happy Meal.
Ooh, that one's smart.
Pokemon cards so you
Yeah,
get in
the
the Happy
hollow.
Meals. So
I want
we get a poster and stickers and Pokemon cards. Your favorite is Eevee? Yes, Eevee is adorable. Love me some
Eevee is
Eevee.
everything. Except Ghost
Oh yeah,
type.
yeah.
I know.
Here's my little.
Ghost types.
I think that's supposed to be like a pen topper, but there's an Eevee. That's so
Nice.
cute. It's cute.
The only thing that's covering up is the list of names.
And then I have a skitty.
Kitty.
Crowley, welcome. Thanks for the
Oh, yeah,
love.
the thing
Just
is,
a
like-
lovely fluff ball.
I was playing with those.
Skitty's my baby. Yes, she was organizing them all.
I did. Now it's all a mess, isn't it?
Now we got Kuromi. Yep, I messed it up again.
Of course.
Kuromi.
Every
Yeah, I worked today and I was like digging around in my pen cup trying to find my purple pen, and I found my purple pen because it actually has purple ink in it. It makes me happy.
Yes.
It just looks like a normal pen, and then when I wrote with it and it was purple, I was just like, oh, I don't even know where it came from. Just random
I
purple
need
pen.
to get you tool pins. You'll love them so much.
Ooh. Are those ones that erase?
No, those are friction pins.
Okay. Let's see. Who do we have everyone? Is everyone here? Everyone
I think
ready?
we do. Yeah, I
Let's
think
make
we do.
celebration.
I will
Yay.
be
Thank
right
you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
2 minutes.
2 minutes?
Maybe less than that. Depends on how long I can take to put this back
A
in the
minute
fridge.
59 is the only
Oh,
thing you're
wait.
gonna get. A minute 59.
Give me like less than 30 seconds. I'll be back.
No.
It will
A
count to
minute
3.
59 or else we're going.
Where'd Splints go?
He's
Oh, I caught a
doing his
Pokemon.
Star Trek.
How do you say that? Sinisty? Sinisty?
They're Star
Tennessee.
Trekking.
I am back. And I have
Oh, it's only
drink.
like 20 minutes, I think. Yeah.
I love Tennessee.
Cheers.
Yeah, he left the game too.
Guilty cup.
Yeah.
Cheers.
No, he's doing his own thing.
He's gonna miss the speak off.
I don't want speed golf, and I can hardly play golf now.
But we want to watch you play speed golf.
Good content.
Enjoy the stream. I'm way to sleep. Alright, good night, Silent. Thanks for stopping by. Thank you again for the songs. And
Well,
it's hard to see, but this one has like a tabby pattern on there. It's so bright in here, it's hard to see it. It's got a tabby pattern on there. 3 little purple tabby stripes. Now I'm like, what am I talking about? I did all the Pokemon things. I actually have another whole pack to open, but I'm a weird person, and when I get 2 of the same one, I'm not opening one.
No fucking clue.
It stays closed. I have a bunch of these from different years still closed.
oh wow. I'm surprised you haven't opened them.
I open the extra, and then I keep one unopened. So, you never know.
How do you know what's inside?
You don't. Could be something great. Could
I
be
have a
worth
machine at
something one
work that
day.
can tell you.
Speaking of
That'd be
Pokemon,
cool.
did you get the Time magazine recently?
That's what I've seen
X-ray
people
stuff.
do that. Yeah, I've seen people that'll do that. Well, I've seen people that'll weigh packs of cards that
Right.
try to determine if they have like
Determine
extra
what's in it.
holographic cards or anything.
Because it's really a metallic compound, and although it's not significant, it does just have a higher density, so it just
It'll kind of show you the image.
Either or, that's how they keep you to go
Well,
to McDonald's.
and that's
for
what I'm
those
saying
french
is that
fries.
it's both
That is.
X-ray and because it's extra weight.
Especially because a pack like this only has like 1 hollow in it versus some of them have like 3 or 4. Crowley! Oh my gosh, thank you for the biddies. Holy cow. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for the
What else
1,000
do you
biddies.
really have to lay on my foot? That's weird.
Jeez, thank you. Alright, you're
They
back,
probably
Tank.
prefer
Back,
to
Tank.
Yeah,
Crowley, you
okay.
wanna play some golf? You wanna play some golf?
To be fair, I want to play golf, but I'm waiting.
You're waiting. Waiting. Ooh, ha, 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 ha. You're at my mercy to hit the play button. I may or may not hit it. Get some hype
Well,
in
it's
chat,
winter time.
though.
I can't play
It's
golf,
hype.
so I have to play golf here.
Hype, hype. Thank you guys again. And thank you. Let's
I want to play
see.
real golf.
Alright, okay. I'm gonna hit the start button.
I'm very good at golf. I mean, I'm okay.
Gonna hit it.
I used to play
Go.
baseball.
It's speed golf. Get ready.
No. I have
Not
a
so
cat
much
on my foot. It's
these
rude.
We're doing this whole speed golf. Is that
Are we
what I
doing
heard?
speed? I hope not.
No.
Not in
Okay.
that way. I'm just saying. I hope we're not doing. speed.
I'm just trying to throw everybody off. There was no countdown, but
Dang it.
I was gonna watch
I'm a
everybody
simple
like
man. I'm a
collide and
simple man.
run into each other.
What is this? Dodge
I have a little bit of pinched nerve in my back, so I'm laying down. I'll get in on the action in the future. Okay, please rest. Hope you feel better. Thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you for the 300 biddies. Holy cow.
Also, you have a scented candle, Crowley. The bastard prince has a scented candle, and it's amazing, and I need to get it.
Okay, tell us about this book smell fragrance thing. What is that? Give us the story behind that, right?
So I read a book in November. So the ARC reading came out in November. The book released in December. And I wanted the physical book. However, the author decided, oh, we're going to do a PR box. She ended up with candles scented after the main male character, which is Woodsmoke, Forest, and Dark Plum, and it smells amazing.
You're supposed to burn the candles while you read the book, so you can know what the man smells like.
You don't have to, but
You can get yourself all hot and bothered and shit.
I'm hoping
nah.
I almost got a whole one there.
Okay.
So you're hoping it
I might
smells
really
nice.
enjoy.
Me burning the candle. Do that. Fire.
I might enjoy the scent,
Yeah.
but no. No. My next one is a Lucanus one, though. I need to get a Lucanus scented candle. And then maybe a Bastard Prince one.
Shane, your shoes untied.
I have to get them from Etsy, though.
I'm wearing slippers. I don't have shoelaces.
Your
That's even weirder that your shoes untied and you're wearing slippers.
Well, yeah, he has some weird slippers that we don't talk about.
Oh, you're a bitch. I'm sorry. What did
Yeah,
you
Oh.
yeah.
See what
I was
happens.
just helping him out, I was helping him
Hey,
out.
I tried.
Not where I needed to go. Try
I'm
to
okay with
Lucanus
get
one I found
Why am I
was
trying?
Oh, I didn't give it enough. Or would have went.
I just...
Eucalyptus and mint body spray. Oh, yes. I love
Somebody try to
eucalyptus
take me
mint.
out.
It wasn't me, because...
It wasn't me.
Perfume that I usually use,
Sorry.
if I use perfume,
God
is
damn it.
Dude, I did the same thing.
It's like
I didn't know...
I'm trying to hit you in. Oh, okay.
No,
but it
I did
smells
some
very
cool stuff.
vanilla-y.
I was like, I'm gonna go off this wall and go in, because I did. I started talking about how Shane's good, and then look at that. Now he's 2 ahead of me. Damn.
No.
Drug test him, because he
There was a
he
chair
has
in my
access to
way.
a lot of drugs.
No. No. Yes. I said
I
no.
have
yes,
three.
yes,
I have
no,
eucalyptus
yes.
and mint body spray that I like and smell.
In the hole. Sorry.
I have allergies, so anything that like opens up your airways, like blue eucalyptus or peppermint, I'm all about it. Oh
can't
my
breathe after
gosh!
Smelling stuff like that.
Jeez! Holy cow! Thank you, thank you, thank you. Can I get some hype in chat? Right? Thank you so much.
she-
Thank you.
well, she turned
Thank you,
7,
thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No.
I'm up to 8 today.
Oh my gosh, 700. Meow.
No, you were passed the fuck out. You didn't wake up at all.
Anyways, you put a lot of oil on your slippers.
Someone pushed me up.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Need more hype now. Where's my hype man?
I can't have chat open because I have 3 different.
Oh, because you're playing golf. You only got 2 monitors. I know that feeling. I've got golf open.
Yeah, I wouldn't know anything about
OBS
being all over my
open. Web
Oh, I can
browsers,
have
chatbot, Discord.
Yeah,
I can see your face, Michigan. I can see everything.
I have the game
Oh,
on the
shit,
big
what did I do?
monitor.
don't
And I
have a
got
place.
I gotta teach Michigan how to organize the screen when you have limited space.
Yeah, then I got Twitch and
Nah, I'm
Discord
sure he does
on
just fine.
the other one.
Mhm.
So I have 3 things on screen right now.
It is. I do wish I had
Discord.
3 at the time.
Golf
No, it's
and
perfect
Twitch
right
all
now.
on one
I
screen.
I
Ha!
got it. I
have-
got it. Now.
I
Yeah.
have Discord, golf.
I have Windows.
How big of a screen do you have, lady?
Huh?
How big of a screen are you on?
Crowley, holy cow! Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
she has
Thank
the-
you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Unless you're just
Hype train, yes, level 1 complete.
She has
Hype
a
train,
bigger-
thank you so much. I was not
I used
expecting
to
a
have
hype
free
train.
monitors,
Stop
and I
it. God
preferred my
damn
free
it.
monitor, but this is free from my father-in-law's.
Oh yeah, I'm going swimming. Going swimming.
We had less to move from
Just keep
Kansas to
How
Florida,
am I
swimming.
flexing?
and my father-in-law just brought this with
There you
all the rest of our furniture. So
I got a hole in one.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I gotta
Great.
see if I can actually. I used to have in my scenes somewhere. Hold on. Where you could actually see all these things, but I think I turned them off. I don't know.
We got a tie for first.
Let's see.
Yeah, we got sober man versus drunk man. We'll see who wins.
No,
I'm
in the fire.
Let's see, is that it? No. I don't even know where this stuff is.
Why is my ball bouncing so much on this?
Oh, I think it's.
Closer than you might think.
Is it recent
No, the ball
events?
bounced way
Back
too
in the
much
fire.
than it should.
I think it is. It must be turned off though.
Okay, this is when
There's a
drunk brain
point
loses.
next to this where you just cannot jump, and it's driving me insane. I don't know.
Yeah, this one's extra awkward.
Oh
When
no!
you go onto that floor, it's
It's
a
rigged.
different dimension. It's a
I
different.
know,
It
that's what
doesn't
I'm
bounce
saying.
like regular tile.
No, so that's what I was trying to consistently.
It's rigged.
Yeah, it is rigged.
I think it's very particular that you have to jump actually when your ball is impacting and lifting. You have to time it like exact or it just hates it.
I'm gonna have to get myself a NASA fucking.
I do it all the time.
In one shot.
It hates me on this one.
Yeah.
I was doing so well. What happened? I'm still gonna
I
win.
hit the ceiling.
You do know? Alright, I'm gonna hit a thing real
You
quick.
Bitch.
See. Don't freak out, chat.
Aw,
You hit me.
dang it.
I'm back. There. Put the bar up there so we could see the thank yous across the top. The follows, the
Awesome people.
thank you.
Do awesome things.
Oh,
Don't do
put me
what I
behind
did.
the bag!
Don't do what I did. I don't think it shows the biddies though. I need to
Wait,
fix that.
go. Who hit? I'm gonna punch him. Sorry. Inappropriate.
Hey, we're all doing
Inappropriate.
fine.
I'm going to
Ah, so close. No, who hit me, Rain? I blame
I
Rain.
didn't touch you. I've been in the hole.
Mm,
That's
it was
right.
Michigan.
That is
No, it's hollow.
definitely what she said.
I'm in the hole too. I'm in the hole too.
It's
Come on.
Michigan. Hype.
I
Thank
was
you
in the hole.
guys. Get some hype in
I was in
chat.
the
Thank you so
hole.
much for the hype train, Callie.
I actually was in the hole. It
Thank
wasn't me.
you.
I apologize.
It was hollow.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, it's a horse
I was
race.
in the hole.
There we go.
You're welcome.
Oh,
Oh, that's actually not a bad lineup. I like this better than
oh,
the
you
others.
just went over the fence. I saw that. Good job.
Maybe not that much power. Don't
Oh,
don't fully eat it.
Ah, I went back down the way. Now I hit the
Dang it,
fence.
I hit the mouse and I jumped.
Fuck.
Nice.
Oh my goodness.
Or
Hi,
I
Shane.
hit the mouse button when I did,
Oh,
went and I didn't mean to.
Hi, Jackson.
my
Hi,
brain went to
Jackson.
end the game. Those are dogs,
Oh.
not mice.
I was gonna say they very.
I'm gonna hit those
vicious
too.
dogs.
Yo.
Ah! I hit the dog.
Don't hit the dog.
We're gonna make it.
Told you I'd hit him too.
Oh, man. Talk about throwing a needle there, Michigan.
I'm struggling today.
I know, that's what I do.
I'm gonna see how many things I can pick up.
Fuck. Oh no.
Don't.
Take a deep breath.
Oh! Oh, catch.
This is like me shooting in hockey.
Here's
Goalies.
choose color. Ooh. Oh my gosh.
School forms are available.
What's that? Thank you so much, Shane.
Games like
Thank you,
yeah,
thank you,
every
thank you,
second
thank you,
is
thank you,
over.
thank you very much. Open height chest. What is the height chest?
If you reach a hype train, you also get a reward.
I did. I got this little bear with a
No,
bat.
Michigan!
He's gonna hit somebody.
I don't know what he's talking about. He's a liar.
That thing's gonna whack somebody. Okay, so choose a color means I get to show you
You
all
liar.
of your
These
colors.
are fake. This
And
is
you get to choose. There's so many colors, I'm warning you.
There are a lot of colors. Where are my tags?
There are pretty ones like this. There are pink ones. Jeff got me like a whole set of them for Christmas. Light
Damn, you
pink,
got all the sparkles.
light purple, dark purple.
My wife would say there's not enough sparkle there.
Nope. There's gold. There's the traditional lace ones.
And the lights went out again. They really need to fix that.
The white ones.
No, it's.
I don't think they will.
Of course, the purple ones.
I'm getting worse.
The rainbow ones. I mean, there's a lot of ears in here.
No!
Green.
Kimono, can you hear me?
Gold,
No.
yes.
Thank you, Shane!
You're welcome.
I have all the ears to hear you with.
Wiggles, don't you dare
Yeah,
touch me.
Silver.
You're not the boss of me, lady.
Another shade of pink. How much
I
shine
don't
do I
know
got
what the
left?
fuck's
1
the
minute.
Holy cat ears!
Cheetah.
Wrong way, Wiggles.
Fuzzy black one.
Fuck am I?
Light up one.
I'm about to
Blue
say one
What?
for each day, but I didn't realize that's a lot.
And
more.
orange
Oh,
ones.
you're-
There we go. That's all of them.
Oh
I
my
gotta
God.
get to the
She
hole
has
real
one
quick.
for each
She
day
has
of the
so
month.
many.
I gotta get to the hole real quick. Am I gonna make it?
I don't know. That's up
You got
to you.
43 seconds.
Wait, how many days are there in a month? Trick.
Oh, that was so close to a hole in
31.
one. I got
Between
robbed.
28 and 31, depending on the month.
At least 28.
11
4
teams.
days.
Yeah,
4 days.
like I said, between 28 and 31, depending on
So
the
what
month.
color? The white ones
How
when
many-
you
hey,
guess.
How many months have 28 days in them?
One.
All of them.
Oh, they all do.
Yeah.
You bitch.
Yeah. I saw that one coming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Agree.
I don't
That's
even
what
care.
Shane said.
I
What if
can't
it's
see
a
the hole.
leap year?
There you go. White ones.
Damn,
Now I gotta put them
yeah,
on
yeah,
straight.
Every
F
month
you.
has 29.
There we go. Thank
But
you.
it also
Yeah,
has
like I
28.
said, between 28
But it also
They look
and
cute.
31.
Oh, I wasn't arguing with that. I was just.
Huddles.
I can't remember if they add a day or if they take away a day.
I'm gonna take it.
Don't touch me.
Ain't touched it.
I'm gonna let everybody get done with their. Thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna let everybody get done with their touching, and then I'll move.
Oh, she says it a lot. Like, don't touch me.
Yeah.
I thought everybody was done touching, and then Tate comes out of nowhere.
It's an ambush.
I thought everybody was done touching.
Yes.
No, apparently we were not done touching.
Nope.
I'm not touching you. I'm not touching
touching
you.
golf
I'm
it.
not touching you.
I have like a stick in my hand.
I'm not
I have-
touching
yeah.
you. I'm not
No, it's
touching
like having a stick in your hand. It's like, I'm not touching you.
Why?
As somebody that has brothers and sisters, I've lived through that.
Mom,
I'm an only
she's
child.
touching me. Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
But I'm not touching you, and he's touching me. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
Mono.
yeah.
I have two
It's like-
younger sisters, and yeah, we went through that growing up. Sure.
Yeah.
I'm a
Yes.
only child.
We fought over our favorite spoon, our favorite chair at dinner.
Oh, come on.
You name it.
No,
Favorite
as some,
spoon?
Yes, we had a favorite spoon that we would fight. We would literally fight over the spoon in the drawer that we wanted to
You
eat
guys
with.
are assholes. I almost
I didn't
had...
do anything. I got pushed by Kimono. Probably.
I couldn't tell.
Nico, Dash, welcome to the team. Welcome, welcome,
Well, I do
welcome.
have a sister, and she took everything because she's an older sister.
My intent
That's what
was
we
to
do.
jump over you, actually. But you took off.
I know
as
how
was
it feels
shooting.
to be a younger brother.
I would have
It
rolled
sucks.
quite
Yes.
nicely.
Did y'all have favorite chairs and
I was
everything
second
too?
oldest. I was
Oh,
They're
yeah.
second
sitting in my
And
spot.
second oldest and
I
second
could
biggest.
never.
Okay,
I don't know how
but
many times
big
I've
spoon or
led.
little spoon when it
My
comes to
sister's
eating
slanging
food?
my fingers.
Little
into a
spoon.
drawer. This is evil stuff.
Always
That
the
was
little
part
spoon.
of it. It was the cutest, littlest spoon with the fanciest design, and Mom only had one, so that meant war.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you guys must
Mono,
fight.
are you
was-
telling me I need to get you like a little like tiny spoon?
No, no, it might.
I
no,
have
no, that might be you know, like hurting her. Like she might.
I
have to
also
go
like the
my
little
wrist.
spoon. Yes. We fought over
Made
the
a
little
great
spoon.
She didn't want to be held.
And then we fought over the
Anyways.
chair that was furthest in the back when it was time to eat dinner. We wanted to both
know
sit
how
by
it
the
is.
window in the back.
Fucking shit.
I know how it is to have an older sister.
That
Was it
fucking hurt.
possibly
Yeah.
to the window and to the wall?
Yes.
To be
To
fair,
the
my
window,
sister
to the
is-
wall.
That didn't work at all.
My sister's my sister.
Who hit me?
I'm in the water. It's not me.
Bounce, dude. Oh, you bounced out of those.
Who hit me?
No.
Jump.
Oh, it won't let me
Jump,
reset
jump,
either.
jump, jump.
That's rude. I was like right there. And then somebody hit me. And I messed up.
Dude, I'm partying. What?
Oh.
That works.
And then when you sit like in the back seat in the car, there's that little tiny seat like section in the middle, but yet neither one of you are allowed to cross the line that accompanies that seat. It's like they're crossing the line. They're trying to get on my side.
Mono, just so you
Oh,
know,
I-
apparently
I-
all three animals are going with us.
Oh.
Because we can't leave Monty here because we'll be gone for 2 days.
Mhm.
Dalton won't risk Brooke because of how old
Yeah,
she
she's
is.
too
and then
old,
he's
yeah.
like, I'm not gonna leave Puddles here because it
Oh
makes me
my
sad."
god. Puddle's gonna be so upset. I'm gonna hi Whack-A-Mole. How are you doing today?
It's literally, it's a family member that you leave it behind. I'm like, come on.
Well,
No, you're gonna have
we're
two.
gonna be
You're
gone
gonna have
for
a
2
dog
days,
and
like, come
3
on.
cats in your car. A dog and 3
2
cats.
Oh
You
yeah.
have to have them. have
Actually, I'm
trust.
only gonna have 2 cats in my car, and Dalton's gonna have 1 cat and 1 dog.
Okay.
It's,
Okay.
You have to have somebody you give them to is like a trust, like.
In the
part
words
of
of
the
Rain,
hate
don't you
this
dare
mom.
touch me.
She just moved here. She doesn't have anybody.
No,
I
no,
don't.
I'm talking
I literally
about,
don't.
you know, the dog.
The
Isn't
only
that-
exception to
Mono's
the
nearby,
little
right?
spoon is if I have a ramen spoon. 100%.
Yeah, but if I'm taking Mono somewhere,
I'm
Oh, I
going
didn't know
with
no one else
Rain.
can take care of you.
I'm one of the cats. I'm one of the cats.
That's fair.
I only
It's
have 2 cats, but if I'm taking Mono somewhere, I have 3 cats.
Well, Lauren has the biggest cage then. Probably not her then. Probably.
I behave. I don't need a cage. I might need a leash, but I don't need a cage.
Oh, I hate this one.
And I'm not putting Mono on a leash. That's not my responsibility. That's someone else's.
Ah.
Just the thought of Mono being walked around on a leash.
I have no comment. I have no comment.
Not it.
It's gonna be such chaos in 2 weeks.
Yo,
I was just talking about a cage, but you guys.
I don't know. Is that artist a job? Just kidding.
It might be.
Yeah.
She
Well,
might.
How much
She
do you
might.
get paid?
And now we need fan
Oh, you
art.
gotta hit harder than that.
No, we don't.
I
We
know.
really
Now
don't
you
need
fucked
fan
up.
art of that.
That's alright.
I hate that one so much.
I agree.
If we're drawing
It needs
fan art, we're
to be
drawing my own fan art, okay?
more for the pills, but
Yeah.
not anymore.
Let's see.
No.
What are you writing about?
Ow, that hurt.
What we need to do, Rain, is get you, Mono, Artist, and Rose in a room together.
Well, we're
Oh,
gonna
thank
get
you.
3 of us in a
Yeah, 3 of us.
general area of each other.
Yep.
The 4th one is too far away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just
The
gotta get
4th
Rose
one
here.
isn't.
Hey, Jeffron.
Oh, now.
Oh, hi.
How'd I get up there?
You go first, Shane.
So how do we convince Rose to get here in 2 weeks?
To Florida? Oh, jeez.
It-
That's gonna be hard.
Stop it, stop it, stop
I
it.
can
stop
see
it,
artist
stop it,
doing it. Also, I have
Oh.
Snap Streak
too
with
cool.
artist and Rain now. Awesome.
Hell yeah, you do. But guess what, Crowley? I have to have you pinned because no matter what, I have to send you a pic first directly to
Baby,
you
Let me in the hole already.
because
No, dang
Snapchat
it.
will not
Outta
let me
here.
take a picture and then try to choose to
Oh,
send
boy.
it to you.
Oh,
That's
You guys
weird.
get your ball.
Crowley
out of
doesn't
my
exist
way.
in my contacts, even though
Oh,
they
no.
do.
son of a bitch.
And see, I don't even have mine connected to my contacts. I refuse to do
Well,
that.
Yeah,
no,
same.
no, that's it's not like actual contacts. It's my Snapchat contacts.
Right.
I literally could take a picture
But this thing
and
is
hit send
denying
to,
me.
and Crowley does
everything.
not show up. I
3
type in
seconds?
Bastard Prince. I type in Crowley. I type in
I don't know why it does that to me.
actual name, but I don't know.
I don't know. Might be time to clear the cookies
Oh,
in
wait.
Snapchat.
Ah! Alright,
You could-
hold on.
You can totally clear the cookies or the cache or whatever.
Yeah, I
Um,
win.
Yeah. You know, actually, I
Oh.
win, Shane.
There is a
I
6.
win.
Kimono won. Kimono won. Kimono won.
69.
Overruled.
Go 69.
No,
Yeah,
good job,
Kimono won.
Shane. Good job.
No, we don't talk about the loser here. We talk about 69.
No.
Alright.
Everyone's a winner.
Let's
Well,
No, we
yeah,
don't-
he got second
we-
place. You got second. That was
It
nice.
still
We don't-
didn't
we
fix
don't-
it. Alright. What
I was gonna say, we
happens
don't do that bullshit here.
if we just
Yeah.
unfriend
No,
each other, Crowley?
I'm glad you got second place, Sean. I
Like,
really-
Rain shows up in my
Shane,
chat history, but if I take a pic first and try to send it to Rain, she
Mhm.
doesn't pop up in the
Yeah.
list of people. I had that happen with some people too, but I thought they were just like deleting and reinstalling the app or something. But no, that makes
No.
more sense now. Because
Guys, guess what?
they wouldn't delete and reinstall the app every day.
I heard none of that.
Alright, hold on.
I've got one more map in me
Gonna
for now.
re-add
Woohoo!
you.
Do it. Intimidate! What's wrong, Intimidate?
Uh,
Uh-oh.
I hope.
Yo.
Oh, you froze?
Okay, let me
Uh-oh.
try this.
Okay.
Did I fix it? I fixed it.
How'd you fix it? Clear the
I unfriended Crowley and then friended them again.
Yay.
I unfriended him, and then
I did it, I
sent another
fixed it.
email to them, and then yes or no. And they
Crowley
said
did
no.
not want. I mean, Rain did not want to be Crowley's friend anymore.
I think what happened was we added each other at the exact same time.
Yeah,
See
that would
what?
do it.
See what
Maybe.
had
Double
happened
invite.
was
I
have
can't help
nothing.
it. I
just
love
wanted
my
to say
bastard
that.
friends.
What happened? I was waiting for it.
Hey, hold on, I'm not.
The line of ears. Okay.
I have nothing.
I'm sure it's been 15
You think
minutes. You
they're
can
awake?
switch the light up.
I
It
want the
still makes
party
me
to go.
Giggle.
What you drinking, Kat?
But
I am
Crowley
drinking
spells their name
mango wine,
different.
and this is
Alright,
the
I
last
just
of it,
learned
so
that
I'm
Crowley
sad.
spells their name different.
Hey, I have some mango punch juice thing. Not
I haven't-
alcoholic though.
Mango wine.
I have a mango theme going on with the mango koalas I ate, and then the mango wine. Dusty, thank you for the anniversary. Hello, Regine, drink water. Rain.
Huh?
Yes, it does. Rain bought it and brought it to me.
Mm,
Where'd you get it, Rain?
the
I've
liquor
never had
store.
that before.
But
The liquor store down the street from the McDonald's from Mono.
What's it called?
I don't know. That's classified.
classified
It's a
information.
local-
Read your
local
DMs.
liquor store.
It's a DM situation.
Yeah, I'll DM it to you, but
I'm just wondering what the
I
brand
may
is.
have done something.
Oh,
Oh, what did
yeah.
you do? What did you do in Simi Diaz? It's Simi,
is it-
right? What did you do, Simi?
is it 2
I
or 3,
remembered.
Mono?
It took me a bit, but I remembered. Simi. Huh?
Is it 2 or 3?
3? Are we talking about the name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
3.
3.
3.
Interesting.
It's not called 3.
Poke catch. Catch the Mareep. Catch the little sheep.
Is this a good price, Becky?
Hey, I was wondering, is it possibly 3?
Is it 3?
Mono, I have a question for you.
Yes. What's
In
the
the
question?
community game, how much money do you have
This game?
in the Pokemon community game?
Oh, I don't. Not that much because I spend it all on balls.
It didn't snow anywhere near us.
And I don't lurk on enough streams that play it because I'm terrible. Let's see. Just gonna buy ultras. See, I don't have enough coins to even buy ultras.
Oh no.
I can buy
I'm currently
regulars.
575,000.
Holy cow! Yeah, I need to.
I buy 100 Ultra Balls at a time and catch whenever I feel like it.
Poke start in Simi. Pokes. Is it exclamation poke start Simi to join? Oh my gosh! Cutie Rain, thank you for the raid! Welcome, welcome. Lady Rain, we had a little. Look at you! Welcome, 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 welcome. Thank you! Cute little angels. Welcome to the stream! Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Oh, that's such a cute emote. Love it, love it, love it. Is that an axolotl? Oh, it's yours, Hollow. The head pat one. That's so cute. Hello, I is a friend of Simi. Oh, Simi, thank you so much for bringing your friends here. Thank you, Simi. Hype, hype, hype. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the stream. Welcome. We're hanging out tonight with the community and playing some golf with friends. If you're new here, I'm a variety streamer. I play a variety of games. I do play quite a bit of community night games with like marbles and golf with friends, obviously. And then I do art streams. I play Stardew Valley, Genshin, and some small like interesting games. I played Birth the other day, and there's another one I'm looking at playing very similar to that soon. But you guys will have to find out. But wait, oh, thank you for the happy anniversary. That's what Shane would like.
Yes, that's what I've been begging her for years now.
I know.
Play Pokemon. Play Pokemon. Happy affiliate. You did another year of being your best self. Thank you so much. That was very sweet. Thank you.
Wasn't
Thank
there
you. Thank
something
you.
going on with Genshin? Like there was something going on with it. I forget what it was.
They may have had an
Something
update.
going on with it.
I love Genshin though.
I don't even
It's all right for me, but just it takes so long to get characters.
It does.
I haven't played
It
that
does.
for
Like I play Tower of Fantasy
Guess what?
and Endless.
I wish I
I
had more time to
downloaded it
dedicate
this
to it.
morning while I was at work just so I could claim the shit that I didn't claim in the last 30 days.
Like I played Tower of Fantasy
to that big
and
extent.
Endless.
Yeah, need to
Zero.
claim all your stuff.
Oh, I need to log into Star Rail too, I guess.
Those are
I'm
the two that I
surprised
play
you didn't play Zenless Zone Zero. I downloaded it, I logged in, went to create my character, and I walked away. I even have it in my Hoyo app. And they're like, finish setting it up to collect your stuff. And that's as far as I got.
I got the
actually don't
newest
like
character
CCC.
that I just got the
I
newest
love
I know
seeing
what
communities that love
character.
rating
I
each
know.
other.
Sorry, Jamie.
Thank you, Crowley. Thank you.
I forgot
Yeah,
that
Simi, thank
character.
you so much for bringing cute little angel over here. Thank you so much. Let's see, did we get a shout out for
No, because
cute
I'm
little
Shane,
angel?
so is Shane.
I can't do that.
Well, that and my bot didn't automatically do it like it usually does either.
That's
I'm not
You
cool.
got some settings.
I think
was a
it
shout out.
did, but it didn't.
It didn't do any custom message,
weird.
but Frosty
I-
Tools
I
did
think it
shout out.
did. Oh yeah, then it did the custom thing.
My
That's
art,
okay.
social
It's
medias,
fine.
other stuff. Crystal Angel. I love drawing to make people smile. Oh, I love that. I love playing games, especially horror and RPGs, to make people laugh. Be prepared for random little noises, just as random screams, and lots of hope, cute energy. May your day
Oh, I
shine
can't do
bright.
horror games.
Oh, I love that.
I think maybe the closest you can get me
Hold
to
on,
horror
I think
games is
Kimono
maybe
should get
gonna be
more
Dead
scary games.
Space, but I haven't played Dead Space in a while.
A lot of
What
people
was
want
the-
me to play some horror games.
What's the last horror-ish game we played together, Rain? What was that called again? Why my brain is blinking out?
Phasmophobia.
Phasmophobia. That's about as close as we get. We play some Phasmophobia.
That was horish.
Yeah, I know, that's what I heard.
Yes.
Scary. Scary games, horror games. Not like
horror
that.
games, yes.
Boogeyman comes out and gets you.
I'm a plans addict. A Phas addict? You love Phasmo?
Simi does
Nice, Simi.
I will never forget Mono trying to get you to or trying to help guide you through Corpse Party. That was
Yeah, Corpse Party was intense and it took forever. So I was like,
And I
that's
think
so
you only got to like the
it's a
first chapter. I think.
Pikachu! It's a Pikachu. I like that. Chonk
I
Pat.
own one of the Corpse Party games, I'm pretty sure.
Love it. Pika Pika. So yeah.
God, it was
Love me
forever
some
ago. I don't know which one it
Pikachus.
was.
Yeah, I don't have my art rotation up. I don't have any of my artwork in here either. Because
No,
I've
it's all in the living
rearranged everything. Because I had to move.
For a backdrop, and then just put all the art on it. That
There
you
you
can
go.
bring in and out.
Yeah, I got this little rotator thing that shows my artwork that I could turn on and off so everybody can see my paintings. There we go. I'm surprised you didn't play Zenless Zone. Wait, how did I end up back up there? I've made it. Oh no, Artist is here!
Artist, it's time to end.
Run.
Okay,
Hide.
time to go. Bye.
Hide. I'll be back. When I'm done, cat. Okay, good luck. Thanks for the lurk.
Phone, who this?
I still
I
have
play
not
it with the fellas
succeeded in
sometimes.
stealing-
Sweet.
She keeps a really she watches you like a hawk when you're in your house.
God, I didn't even know you took Nessie and put him on the shelf.
You're alive too.
Rain, by the way, I have to applaud you again because that was amazing. It didn't take her long to discover it, but to be honest, nor did
You
anybody
hinted
else
about it
notice.
though. Yeah, you hinted about it. That's how I know.
Anything, it
Or
would have
everything
been
would
fine.
still be sitting there right now.
Yeah, if you hadn't hinted, I would have took me a bit to notice. Yeah. Yeah. But
We should
no,
have done
I'm
like a
very
reverse
tentative to
hostage
my death.
situation. Like leave it there, and then like throughout the week send her pictures of it sitting in different places of the house.
Thank you so much for giving this song to artists. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Hi. Oh,
And then
wrong button. That's the hug button. There we go. Hi.
Well, I mean, I've never been in her house. I would just take weird
egg
pictures of it, like in
I'm
different
just
sets.
saying.
I see.
Mistreon is in somewhat of an easy place for me to access as long as Mono's not watching.
She sits right under it now that I think about it. That's her favorite spot on the couch. She sits right under that painting.
I'm just
She's
waiting
so
for the day that you
triggered.
never notice.
I will
And I can sneak
notice.
it out to the car.
I will notice.
Hey,
I'm a very tentative host. I
Hey,
will
Rose.
notice. Hi.
Hey, how much is
Lemon.
it gonna take to get you down here in 2 weeks?
Me?
Yeah.
As much money as a plane ticket? Why?
Hey, I got a real quick question for you. Did you win the
Love the
lottery?
brand of chaos
I did
that
not.
Rain
I won
has.
$4.
Yes.
Mono,
Yeah,
did
you
we
won
win
$4.
the
Oh,
lottery?
nothing, I
Technically still
guess.
winning.
I never checked.
You
I didn't check our
jerk.
tickets yet. They're still stashed away. I haven't checked them yet.
So there's a
I'm so
possibility we
focused.
could have won the
We could have
lottery.
won. We played the next day,
Still so
Lemon.
many-
We played the
so
next
many-
day.
Many winners.
Eh.
No, we played the day of.
Alright, golf is open if you want to join, Lemon, and we're gonna start another round
Alright.
soon.
No, there's
She
it was
likes
suggested to
neutral
us
chaos.
that you, me, Mono, and Artist in the same room would be absolute chaos.
Super
And
chaos.
the three of the four of us are gonna be in
2
the
weeks.
same general space in 2
In
weeks.
2 weeks.
I'm so jealous.
I know.
We'll just
Ugh.
pretend that the world's flat and maybe you
I
could.
need you
Yeah.
to visit us.
It's a Ren fair.
Pretend. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah, it's a Ren fair, Lemon.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that hurts even worse.
I know.
Oh wow.
Mind you, we have to
Jealousy
travel
is
5
within
hours to
me.
get there. But I guess
Where is
Artist it's near Fort Lauderdale.
Is Artist selling there?
That's where I
Is
used to live.
She's
Mind
gonna
you,
go home.
I'm closer to Orlando.
Thank you so much for the follow, Fable. Thank you. Fabled Grim. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Fine.
stupid question.
This is
Stupid
what
question.
happens.
Is Artist showing? Does she have a booth there, or are you guys just going to hang out?
No, we're
I'm
going
going
to hang out.
hang out.
Awesome.
Yeah. No, I guess I can make it up to Artist because she traveled several hours to come see me in Kansas. So I guess I can travel several hours to see her in Florida.
And Fort Lauderdale's a so.
I know.
I
My
know your
father-in-law
father-in-law
lives
lives.
pretty close.
I did.
It's pretty
Like a
close.
dude did. Okay.
You did several times. Well,
Okay.
yeah,
And the password is the
but yeah.
same as always, Lemon, unless you need us to send it to you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
for the-
password is P123.
I know. So you had to travel the entire state to get to me.
Oh my god.
I thought for sure you were
I-
gonna say P1 DDY.
I
No,
want to
no, P
say
as in the
both
letter P
Artist and
and
I
Or
were
D1 never. mind.
roughly about within an hour or two of the
I'm gonna
border,
have to pop
just
out for
on
now. Have a
different
good
sides of the
stream and
state.
happy affiliate anniversary.
was
Thank you
great.
so much again,
Oh,
I loved
Crowley.
it.
Thank you.
But I'm not too sure.
Appreciate you. I hope you have an amazing sleep and I hope you feel better soon.
Yeah, y'all, I don't
It's like 8
new
hours.
one. Would
across
someone put the new one
whole
in chat?
Kansas.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No,
No, I DM.
I got
her,
it.
I guess.
I'll put
Oh,
it
you DM
briefly
me?
in the thing.
I'll confirm in
I guess you can do
private.
it,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I,
I
can't
guess that's
remember,
better.
but-
I don't know why.
Night, Crowley.
Good night, Crowley.
Yes. Sleep
Oh, I-
well.
Night, Crowley.
What the fuck? Solid. Oh, because I didn't.
Yeah, there is the first one that
The
is
whole all
very
caps
capitalized.
thing.
Just rearranging some of
Or
my anime
uppercase.
because I put the.
Okay,
I know,
nerd.
Jamie.
Why does the toddler have to do cute things after being naughty?
Because that's how
they-
toddlers work.
Dude, that's how cats work.
They know how to win you over.
All day, been a pain in the butt.
Alright, I
Don't
think
remember
everybody's
what
here.
it's
Is
like
He
how
to
sat
be
down
a
with mommy
toddler.
to look through a Pokemon book,
There we go.
and now he's running around the house
Uh,
doing abracadabra at things to do magic.
Good lord.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you-
don't remember.
yes.
So why is
Lighter
the child
on
up
the-
at
we were waiting
like,
for
9
somebody to
o'clock?
join.
That's why you say abracadabra.
They just
He
got
was
in.
just asleep.
I don't
Please
remember what
don't
it's
murder
like being a
Pokemon,
toddler,
please.
but what you just described sounds absolutely awesome. I wish I was a
I
toddler.
know, right?
I wish I had Harry
Gamer.
Potter when I was like 4.
Dude, that sounds fucking amazing.
Well,
Artist sounds like she's reading in chat.
Game? Where's game? Game. Yep.
Lemon's having a difficult time joining.
It's the
Yep.
fucking shit.
Game. Ah!
Well, the Bills are gonna win.
Shit.
Hell yeah, they fucking are.
Yo.
I knew that was gonna work. No, I'm voting for the Bills. I really am, because I
No,
don't
I didn't
Probably would
want to
agree.
far.
I don't
you
want
can
the
pay-
It's
demons.
okay.
Like you can pay my bills.
Making
my
fun of my
Demons.
telephone
typos?
bill.
Yes. It was cute.
Yeah, all the demons. That's why they're red.
Kiwi. I don't even.
Or-
Kiwi.
Oh,
Ree.
how's your Baldur's Gate going?
No, you're
Not
cute.
great because I've been on a Fields of Mystery a kick, but
Oh, okay.
eventually I'll get back.
Fields of Mystery
Why did you make it?
is so cute. That's another game I play.
I love it. I haven't. I mean, I've gotten like
Bidoof.
somewhat far.
Pull, catch, wild Bidoof.
I
assume you're
accidentally
still
like
at
got
one.
with Gale.
Oh.
Yeah, didn't mean to do that.
Yeah, he's
obviously
a bit of a
I'm on the
flirt.
Astarian route.
Yeah. Gale
Oh,
just kind of
no.
does that sometimes.
Yeah, I didn't see him
What
coming.
did you do, Wiggles?
I double
You never
tapped
do.
it. Like I hit it and it went an inch.
You're sleepy? No, it's Friday night. But yeah, I get
Anyways,
it.
I hope Josh Allen gets
It was a long week.
5,000 yards in one day.
I hope
I laid down for a couple hours before stream and then
I am on
and
your
then
side.
decided to
I'm
set
sick and
up
tired
thinking
of
my
the
internet would
Chiefs.
work, and it took me a while to get that to work.
If I don't hear
So that
Kale
was
for-
fun.
For
No, it's not even about
It was
that.
January in the
Well, it's,
office,
uh,
so
it's the
oh gosh, yeah,
It's the
I
Bills
already-
yeah,
versus the refs, so you know.
Yeah.
It's
No,
not
it
even
is,
Bills
yes.
versus-
yeah.
No, I literally. I'll
As
have to
many
say-
I
times
feel like
I've played
I
this
feel like
portion,
many
I can never
offices
do this
start the
one
new year
correctly.
off at like
Just do
hectic.
3.5 hours.
I'm gonna send
3.5 heats. Got it.
Lemon this. Hold on. We are friends on
think that was
Facebook.
Well, that didn't work.
But yeah, I get it, artist. That's not good. Not good for you. You need
He's
rest.
live now. I mean, you can see he's on the screen right now.
There
it is.
There you go.
There you go, Shane. Oh, no.
Bidoof has been caught by Hollow and Artist.
Be a little harder.
I did so many forms today.
Oh no,
Oh,
from the
goodness.
ladies in unison was perfect. I wish I
There
had
you go.
You're a pro now.
And I'm taking Wiggles' advice. I'm gonna see a CPA.
Yes. Thank you. Because it's a lot, is it not? It's a lot.
So much.
Thank
I don't
you.
even have any of his information yet. It still hasn't shown up in the mail. I have all
Yeah.
of mine.
Try to
All of
file
mine.
during the
Some may not show up till February, depending on what you
It's
got.
not even that. Is that she's got major life events. She's moved
Yeah.
and got married.
Yeah, she's
Well,
got
Rose-
two
Rose
major life
understands
events.
the
State.
married thing, but also
But-
the fact that I
So,
moved a different
moved,
state and
married,
also
and
was
name
in
change.
school.
Yeah.
So
At the same
like,
time, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it's better to have somebody else do it the first time around, and then
Anyways,
next year you
Lemon
have
sent
documents to look at to go by to do it yourself the next year. But as like a
In the long
guideline,
run.
If it wasn't for my wife,
been a
I'd
pro.
probably be
The IRS
something on
website
paperwork.
is silly, so I can only do
How
them
did you
once a
do that,
week.
Rosie?
Oh
I think you
no.
went back out the same hole.
Yeah, but it was typed
Black
so
cat
perfect
ears?
for it to go
Okay,
away.
I got you.
oh,
I
what the
think you're
fuck?
lucky it didn't get reset. Like that.
Oh, come on. Where do I
You
gotta go?
brought back Kimono? Yes, I did.
You gotta go through the brown
I was
hole.
gonna say you just now noticed. I did bring it back.
Heyo.
I don't know.
Joe.
Puddle,
Well, yeah, I
get
know.
your
You
claws out
luckiest.
of that chair right now.
I have black ears now. Bloop, 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 bloop.
Puddles.
Beautiful. Thank you.
It will be right back.
Aren't
Alright.
children the greatest artists? What? Why are you going that hard over there?
Well, I draw
Volume
like
at
an
like
artist.
80.
Use the hill, but there's too much
You're
hole.
no longer camouflaged. Yes.
I do whatever I want.
I heard my name, but I don't.
can fly.
You were asked sarcastically about children being
Children
fantastic.
being great. Yeah. From Hollow. Who knows from experience?
Find children annoying personally.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Ah.
I love children, but also sometimes I don't.
That's valid. Depends on the phase.
They're cute and adorable and awesome when they're behaving
I
and they're
think it
cute
also
and they're
matters
giggling and they're
of
fun. If they're tired and
how
hungry,
they
send
talk
them
to
back.
parents. Because most
I
of the
love
time, the
my
children I
child, and I
enjoy
love the
are
fact
my
that
friends'
she's.
kids.
I love my child, but I love the fact that she's also grown.
I could
No,
love
no.
them and still be
Yeah, like I
annoyed.
said, I love
Yes,
my niece.
totally true.
I love my nieces and nephew because I can give it back. Yeah.
Yes.
So awkward.
I will
Oh,
say,
yeah.
I went to visit my best friend and her
Temporary kids are the
baby
best.
back in December, and I've never actively missed a baby before in my life, and I like actively miss. So, like,
Aww.
that's weird. He can't talk to me,
I can handle
but I
babies.
still am like,
You're such a good
I
aunt.
can handle anything too.
And that's why she needs to be a mom.
One day.
Other than
One day.
teenagers.
We gotta go on some vacations first.
Definitely need some vacation.
We're putting in our pleas and requests. Because we know once she becomes a mom, then it would be obsolete.
"Where's Sean? It's fine. I'll do what I want."
Yeah, I just find 2-year-olds and teenagers awkward. Anything else I can deal with.
Well, you were never an awkward teenager?
To be frank, no. A lot of people thought I was
I'm
way too
still
mature.
an awkward.
That's why you were an awkward teenager, my guy, because you were way too mature.
I
That's
also
what made
didn't
you
act
awkward.
up much, so
I mean,
I
neither
went
did
through
I,
a
but
goth stage. I was definitely an awkward teenager.
yeah.
It's the best.
Because I was a theater kid. That's what made me an awkward
Same.
teenager.
I didn't
So
do
I was
any
okay.
extracurricular
I did.
stuff.
For me, it was
And
weird.
not ashamed though.
I played sports, and I fucking did drama club, and I was in choir.
Oh wow, so you just did it all.
Kid. Yeah.
Yeah, none of the above.
Band kid, theater
Yeah,
kid.
I would have done choir if the choir director at my high school wasn't awful.
Oh.
Oh, dude, Mr.
Also,
Bean
I'm sorry,
Inventor
you
was
just
the
had to hear my
awesomest thing
husband
that ever
shout.
I would go
happened
home,
to.
do my homework, eat dinner, then just do whatever until it was time to go to bed. I didn't bother with anything else.
Hole in
Anywhere to be away
one.
from home was.
That was weird.
No, I ended up spending my
That
4
was
years playing tennis. I never got any better at it, but I enjoyed
That's
it.
fair.
As long as you enjoy it, it doesn't really matter. Don't have to be an expert at everything.
High school, I did soccer, ran track.
No.
I just did track.
I did some track. A tiny bit.
I had a track coach as my trig teacher.
I got like first place and I was done.
I used to run the mile, the 2 mile, and a 4x100, 4x400 relay.
You want to know an awkward adult? He was basically Sheldon.
Bless his.
I loved him.
I feel like
He was
track
fantastic.
coach being the trig teacher though checks out. It's like the football coach is always the history teacher. Like
I
feel
saw all
like
the Sheldon
ours is
reels
always
today.
math.
I think I sent y'all Sheldon reels too.
Actually, I worked with the football coach. So my first job, our football coach was a server. My first job.
Oh no.
He was great. I loved him.
Oh, okay. That's.
Yeah. So I met him before he became the football coach. If that makes sense.
Oh, okay.
That's too much power.
Power.
I think one of our history teachers, he was
I'll look at reels
actually the wrestling
later.
coach.
Brain no one to even do scroll. I know. Once you get started, you can't stop. That's a problem. I need to see
We had
who
a
I sent that one to.
We had a biology teacher who literally had his own fan club. Like every morning, a bunch of freshmen would gather outside his door and wait for him to get there.
Yep.
Sounds like anime.
Wait, what?
I said it sounds like some anime shit.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of
Some
seemed that way
JoJo,
looking
yeah.
back. Yeah.
We kind of had that too, but then he
my
ended up
chemistry
being a
teacher was
a
volleyball
predator
coach.
and getting yeah.
Yeah, we had one of.
Yeah.
Does everybody want to laugh?
Oh,
It's like, oh, they're so
I'm gonna read my
cool.
wife's
Did you find out
message
they're a
word for
predator?
word quick.
Are they? Or are they just?
okay, let's hear it.
Baby Got Back was just on. He was dancing with his hand. I said, "You dancing?" He said he was dancing to the booty song.
The what song?
Baby Got Back.
Booty song. Oh.
Gosh.
This just pretty much wipes away all of the bad today.
I don't think I sent the Sheldon one to anybody. I think it was one I liked though. So if you stalk the new Who Your Friends Liked feature, you'll see it.
No, I see it now. Yeah, because I saw like everybody loves this, and I was like, what is this? And then I go to all my friends' stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, I know we talk about Instagram.
Yeah, you can stalk me and see the Sheldon reel now.
I don't know. It'd take more than that to wipe all my bad away for today, but that was kind of funny.
He's also only 4.
God,
Now I'm
four
stuck.
It was
already?
related to the whole
Oh my God.
scene where Sheldon spanks Amy, by the way. So yeah.
Oh.
Oh, I've seen that.
He was talking about preparing for that part of the script, and it was hilarious.
The awkwardness that we all witnessed when that happened was as real as awkward as it displayed on camera. Like that was actually weird.
Oh,
for
I
both
believe
of them.
it.
Yeah.
I wonder if he felt even more awkward being a gay man doing so as well.
You have to
Dude,
watch
no,
that
don't hit it
reel to
hard.
find
You
out
literally
how
just
he
wanna
felt.
tap it.
Yeah, you only
Just
had to
so-
slightly tap it.
That's definitely
That
whacking
works.
the shit out of it. No, that did not.
Just not even a whole yellow bar, but like a smidgen of a yellow bar.
Really, you don't need much for these conveyor
Oh,
belts.
that was way more than a smidgen.
Yeah, you just need to do a tiny
Just
bit.
barely send it, because the ramp does all the work for you.
Anyway.
Do I need to
See?
add smidgens galore?
There.
Yeah, smidgen.
9 seconds.
Just a
Oh, I should
smidgen.
send you an
You can do
updated
it.
Excel sheet of what I have because we have a band now.
No.
Oh, good.
See, I don't know any of
And
this
we
though,
now
because I
have
wasn't
2
there. The
singles.
community's gone hog wild.
She knows. We showed her. We showed.
I think we showed her, but I didn't send her the content.
Yeah, the community has gone hog wild without me, Lemon. And without the historian.
Yeah, I've been MIA. I feel like you have more of an excuse to be MIA than I have.
Can you see what you just said again, Mono?
What? Hog wild? The
What did you
community's been
call it?
hog wild since I've been away.
Oh, Rose is the historian for Kimonia.
Yeah, for Kimonia.
All I heard was Hostorian. And I was like,
too.
She's a hoe for a historian.
That's because you got that booty song in your mind.
Booty. Oh, you're in the right place, Hollow.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Smidgeon. I sound like
I'll
Flareon,
DM you the link to it. What I
Jolteon,
have, Rose.
Vaporeon. Now we have Smidgeon. We have a new Pokemon.
Smidgeon. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's the artist
Hole in
version of.
one.
It's the artist version of Eevee.
Oh, okay.
Smidgeon, because he makes smidges on canvas, you know, or on
Oh, look
paper.
at this fat ass cat.
Oh, well, it's like red lichens or something.
Look at his little belly.
Yeah.
It's just like an Eevee with its
Oh,
face smudged. Smidgeon. Like someone was trying to erase it, but the eraser was bad for Smidgeon.
Oh my god. If that's not.
We'll give you a new face, Smidgeon, I promise. We'll make you one. We'll put a brown paper bag on your head, it'll be okay.
no, an eraser is the evolution stone.
Oh my god. Just like the brick was the Mysteryons.
Yeah, the brick is Mysteryons. Yeah.
Evolve, Eevee!
That story never gets old. I like telling it to people that I haven't heard it yet, and they're like, it's like, do you know how do you get a ghost Eevee? Lucian? And they're like, no. And they're a brick, and they just like die.
The first time I told my wife that, she tried to rationalize what it would be. And then I got smacked on the back of the head when I told her the answer.
Yep. So he's like, oh no, that's terrible. You can't murder the Eevee. Right.
I didn't. I evolved it.
Yeah. It was just an evolution.
Shit.
Hi, lady.
Bye. Bye.
Oh.
Hook me.
Ah, shit.
Oh. It's better than I did any other round.
Fuck. Bye.
And a back off. Oh, I'm failing on this one.
There's also a Pancham if you guys want to poke catch.
I don't want Pancham.
Yeah.
I just struggled to evolve my Pancham. I don't want one.
Ooh. You little bit.
I love how Go has all these friendship evolution Pokemon that actual Pokemon games don't have. It makes me so mad. It's like, this Pokemon is not a friendship evolution. Why do I have to do this?
Which one?
The new one might be. I'll have to look. What's his name? The little furry...
Fuecoco?
No.
I love Fuecoco.
No.
Oh,
no.
Charcadet.
Yeah, Charcadet. That one.
Yeah, I love
Well,
Charcadet.
it would be a friendship one in here because they don't have the armor yet.
Yeah. But in regular game, yeah.
Yeah.
See, I don't like that. I don't like that.
The armors.
Yeah.
I mean, they could just introduce
No.
armors as a
Well, they have
evolution
lots of them that are friendship evolution and Go that shouldn't be. And it just drives me nuts.
Also, the fact that Pancham requires you to catch 25 dark type Pokemon to evolve it?
Yeah. All these extra things are just way too extra.
Or you
Rigged.
know, Galarian Slowpoke.
You haven't played in so long. I know. I couldn't send you anything.
What does the Galarian Slowpoke require you to do? I don't remember.
Psychic type catching and poison.
Oh, yeah.
Catching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I forgot about that. That's why I haven't made it my friend yet. I literally
new
have what I
evolutions
need
for Prime,
to evolve.
for Minky.
Winky.
They changed it.
What defy was that?
It was a golf ball.
It was my brain.
Golf ball going places.
I tried to help
I'm
you,
old.
Mono.
It's going places.
Wrong.
Brain, I don't want to hear. He's not old.
I feel old.
I'm not old. I'm just brand new. I'm used, but
I didn't realize how much it hurt
Yeah, you are.
to be on my feet all day. And now I have to be on my feet literally all day.
No.
I don't get a choice.
I
it's not
couldn't
fun.
do it. I couldn't do it. I've
Well,
had troubles being on my...
Shayna is on his feet longer than I am, but still.
I've gotten way used to having my ass in the seat for an entire day.
Yeah. I've had problems being on my feet for too long since I was like 10. Like, I literally, like... If I'm on my feet for like 2 days straight, then I just can't walk the next day. It like has like crippling effects on me, and I don't get it.
Or at least it's not on the concrete
I will tell you
floor.
right now, like, if I get up, I am in pain.
But it runs in
so
my
hard to
family
get
too, so I think it's like circulation.
I
Like, my grandmother had to like wear like leg braces and stuff for a while in her childhood, and she found out it was because she lived on concrete floors. As soon as they moved into a house that had wood floors, she was fine.
I'm going on a journey.
It's just like the
I did
floors
not hit
literally
that
crippled
hard.
her. Whenever there's an event or something, it makes it harder to find Pokemon and do things, and the Pokemon here is limited.
Yeah, they were really limited where I went to, or artist.
Really don't
Even
like
being in a college town, they are still really limited.
Sus.
I moved from a college town to a small town.
Yeah, I moved from a big city to a somewhat big city.
We got nothing but normal types around here.
And then to a college town, and now I'm in a what was supposed to be a small town.
It's a lot busier than probably even where you came from. It's just busy.
It's so much busier. I hate it.
Granted, this was 22 years ago, but my wife and I moved from downtown Milwaukee to now I have to travel 30 miles to go to my nearest Walmart.
Yeah. I can't do that. That's too far.
My nearest Walmart's half an hour.
Oh.
Yeah.
Who touched me?
32.
Rain?
I have one that's 30.
didn't touch
no,
you.
I'm sorry. I apologize. I have one that's 28
Rose
miles,
hit
and
me.
the other one is 31.
I've got a Dollar General that's
going.
7 miles.
Blink, Lemon.
Because they're fucking
I see
everywhere.
how it is.
It's a newly built
Across
one.
the way, Lemon. Across the way.
I think just in December they finished it.
You gotta jump like to your across the thing to the next thing. I don't know how to describe it. Go up the ramp and jump. Yeah, that thing.
What I did.
A little bit more oomph.
Peer pressure.
We're all watching you. We're all watching you, Rose.
Oh, too
Oh,
much.
that was a little too much. I found that if I went at a slight angle, a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Like to the right, yeah.
There you go.
Slight angle helps.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
jeez. That's what she said. Sorry.
I kind of always go straight, so I don't
Help
know.
you get a Starian too.
I rarely get the angle to go straight these days.
Maybe not that much of an angle, or that. Yeah, not that much of an angle and more heat.
You know, it would be even more fun, Rose.
Nope.
Once you finally get through your first playthrough, we play a game together, a Baldur's Gate.
Poor Rose, right?
Be so much fun.
Listen, I'm not paying attention and just letting it go. I'm just not.
I mean, I get it. Splits does that sometimes. I get it.
definitely think you're paying attention.
Except for he full heats it when he does it. He,
Oh well. It is what it is.
Honestly,
Am I back in
Oh,
first?
good.
I'm back in first.
I'm back in 7th.
Rude.
ooh,
Oh,
lady
man.
has 69, but it won't last.
Nope. Oh, I fell right off. That's... Oh!
I'm in a drink.
Didn't know that could happen.
If you go full blast, you'll fall off, yeah.
Oh, I
Oh,
went down the wrong
I hit somebody in
slide.
midair.
You hit me.
That's awesome.
This is not the slide I usually go down. This is the wrong one.
Okay, I've fallen straight off twice. Not the.
Stuck glass.
You know what? That's good
No,
advice.
no. Go.
Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Thanks, guys. He didn't touch
Well,
me.
if this was
he
speed
stopped
golf,
us.
I'd get that one first.
Right? Well, I don't have 69. Who's next?
Yes. Actually, fucking.
Hey, I hope I helped.
Job
Hey, guys.
Shane's the closest.
I helped
and
Battle
I
Cat.
don't think it's 69.
Yeah, that was a double ball game.
Oh, that helped. Did
Jump!
Rose move herself, or did someone else?
Oh,
move
dang
hers?
it.
I don't know.
No,
I
I'm
could
a,
not tell. Oh, okay.
I'm an
Almost
independent
looked like
woman
someone
who
hit
don't
you.
need no man.
I
Sorry.
make myself
I'm
talk about pixel perfect.
Stop. Oh.
You know what? I need to fix that because it still says Twitter versus X.
Please.
I just realized that.
Same thing.
I know. But eventually I don't know, they'll probably never expire that URL. It'll probably always reroute to X, but just in case. I do miss the little bird though.
Not last.
I never call it X. I still call it Twitter.
Yeah, it's
I do half the time too.
Twitter.
Cause
It'll always be Twitter.
I just love the little bird. So sad.
Pudding hat.
Radar.
We just got X everything. Xbox, all that mess. I don't need any more X stuff. I just want.
Thanks for letting me join, Mona. Have a
Oh
good
yeah,
one.
thanks for playing and hanging out. It was good to see you again.
Yeah.
Good
Bye,
night.
everybody.
Bye.
Good night. Happy Friday. Sweet dreams.
Are we done with the golf?
It can be. It can be done in golf. Let's see. Unless any of you are just insisting on playing another round.
Yeah,
I'm good.
Some other folks I
Okay.
want to visit.
No,
Sorry,
I
we
did
have
a
to
good
go to
job
bed.
of dissociating the last time, and I don't know if I could keep up.
You were playing like Splunts does, and I respect that.
Well, fewer people will help.
Alright.
Plus we'll
I was
Say hi
like,
to your fans.
you're saying Crowley, so I'm like looking in chat for Crowley. Like,
No, not Bastard Prince Crowley. Just
yes. No, that's funny too, because like, oh my gosh.
Oh, I just opened the chat.
Rose's cat. Oh my god. Look at Rose's
There's a
kitty.
picture of you two from your guys' just pictures in there. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yep. From the live stream.
When you know, I tried to buy a Gengar beanie.
I should have
that matched
grabbed those
the
when I
Pikachu
posted the
one you
video.
have. They said they had 4. There were none on the fucking shelf here.
Really?
Yeah, they were all just gone.
Jeez.
Which means they probably got stolen.
Oh, the ears
Or
moving. That's
just
what it
all
was.
bought at the same time by
Nice.
some dick.
No, they were stolen. It was a Target. They were stolen.
Oh no.
Hello. Orange cat.
Yes, that's Crowley.
Hello, Crowley.
Oh, that was funny.
Who does that?
You're a big
All
sweet
these.
guy, aren't you?
Puddlebutt, come here. Puddles. Puddlebutt. You bastard. He's just looking at me. I guess that's what I get for yelling at him.
Well,
for
the
climbing up
dog can
couch.
probably hear you through Rose's
The
headphones, and that's why.
Hey-ho.
Are you talking to me?
She's like, hello?
Yeah.
Do you want me?
Who's your good pup? Who's your good pup?
Is it you? Do you want to be involved? You just.
Mm,
I'll
yeah.
do that to you.
Their
course
hearing
she
is
does.
so
The
good.
jealousy that's
hear
happening
us.
right now is
Yeah.
so real.
Oh yeah.
Too sweet.
Oh,
Let's see.
sweet baby.
She's so sweet. Puddlebutt.
There,
Don't go
I know I
underneath my
said
desk.
this the last time, but there's no love there at all. Like they hate
Oh.
you.
Oh,
You're the worst person in the world.
Come here.
Yeah, no, we just, you know, we have them to make ourselves good. We don't.
You'll tolerate each other. Oh my god.
Hey, I'm gonna hop off though because I need to go to bed. I work
Alright, get some sleep,
Yeah.
Rain.
Good night, guys.
Thanks for hanging out
Good
playing.
night.
Love you.
Good
I
night.
don't really like you that much.
Why?
Like,
She knows my
What?
sarcasm. Come on.
What?
I'm gonna tip you guys. I have another chat I want to join.
Okay. Alright, catch ya.
Okay.
Good
Bye,
night.
Racy. Bye, Tank.
I'll see you some other Friday.
Yeah, are they still doing the Star Trek thing? Because I don't. Are they
What?
still watching? Are they still watching Star Trek or whatever?
Maybe.
Oh, you'd have to talk to Joe about that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
Splints is offline.
Oh, okay.
He went to sleep
assuming-
then.
Yeah, nappy naps.
Work. No
I'm
work.
gonna take the dog for a walk anyway, so I'll be back in a bit.
Cleo looks
I'm
so
sure by the
excited.
time I come back, everyone is
like,
gonna
"Oh."
be gone. Like, oh, it would always happen.
I'm hanging out here. I don't know
I
what you're
am.
talking about.
We'll be
This
here
is-
for a short
dude,
bit.
It's Friday and it's 9:44 for me.
Yeah,
Jeez.
It's
That's early.
10:44 for me. So.
I didn't sleep at all last
super
night.
late.
I don't know if I was like anticipating today or what, but I couldn't sleep last night. I was up all night. And then I went to take a nap and I couldn't take a nap either. I just doom scrolled. So
You went
I'm
down
really
the
tired.
Heck.
Yep,
down the-
really tired. That's how I found that Sheldon reel. Talking about that scene with Amy.
Not like super doom scrolly though. Like that's like wholesome scrolling.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it wasn't dark and evil. It was laughing funny.
That's
I still call it doom scrolling because it like sucks you in and takes away all your time.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that was valuable time. I could have been napping, but I wasted it. But I was also scared to take a nap because if I did that, then I would have missed Super Groggy and not a good start for stream.
Yeah, it's hard. Take a nap and like,
Leo.
if it's the perfect amount of time,
Leo.
and you wake up like bright
Yeah.
and bushy tailed, then it's great.
Yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, like when you take a
Yeah.
nap, like it's
Especially on a Friday night. Yeah.
it's hard to recover
After
back
work.
from that. Yeah.
Friday night
It's
after work.
definitely the fuck it, I'm not doing this tonight.
Yeah, if I come home and take a nap on a Friday afternoon, I usually end up canceling stream. And I was like, I can't cancel tonight. So I just kind of just ended up laying there and just scrolling instead. And I was like, this is fine. This is fine. I'm resting. I'm resting. Yeah, I'm just resting.
It is a form of rest.
It is. It helps.
We'll go
It
with
really
it.
does. It does help though. It can when you've been like running your brain all day, you know,
I've just been running everything all day.
solving world problems, just being able to lay down and relax a little bit helps.
So I have an audit next week.
Ooh, that doesn't sound good.
I'm going to have 2 feds in my facility for 3 days.
Wow.
That's a lot.
It is a lot.
That sounds like
we're
pressure.
good. We have a foolproof
Do you
system.
get your Fed and your state at the same time
Brandon,
at least, or do you have separate audits?
welcome.
Separate
We're
audits.
scrolling.
We do Fed,
What is
state,
a
and
bis
ISO
scrolling?
because we're a lab, so we have to do a lab accreditation as well.
Oh, that makes. I've always
Oh,
wished
God.
that they could be at this, but like you're getting
So-
it,
so
like,
do
can
I.
you just like do one at a like why?
So this is the
3
first year. This is the first year in 4 years that we have. Normally, our audits are 1 day, or sometimes they're 2 days, and it's usually one like
I'm
the
good
2
right
day.
now.
One of the days it will be 2 auditors. The next day it'll be just one. This is because we merged or we got purchased by another company. We're now considered corporate, and so now it's going based off of their accreditation. So now instead of us being a mom and pop shop that employs 15, we're part of a corporation that employs 385. So our number is different. So what they, based on what our scope of accreditation is, So it's again, I'm relying on the fact that we have a foolproof system because we've been doing it for a while. But you never know. You have that many people literally turning every document over.
Right, and like they're
Yeah.
literally there to find like they're
Yeah.
looking just
And having
to
complete just having the faith and reliability into the people that work under you, that everybody that has a duty and a job that they completed it. I mean, we have a quality management system, so it's really difficult to miss something, but you never know. For us, it could be something as stupid as somebody has a uncertified standard sitting in a desk that they use on a microscope or something,
Oh
and it's probably fine. It's probably still great, but if you don't have a fucking piece of paper that certifies it, that's a finding.
Yeah.
And whether it's a
Jeez.
minor or a major, those things cost money. Like,
Oh yeah. We have joint commission that comes every year. God, that sucks. They show up.
I'll tell you what, after the promotion, this is for the first time in my professional career that I am nervous for Tuesday. I've never been nervous before. I've dealt with like ISO audits, all those audits. This is making me nervous. Our corporate quality manager is coming down. Not making me nervous because I think we're doing something wrong, just making me nervous because it's my
who it
first
is.
time that I
Yeah.
have to prove that our system is still because now it's in my hands,
Yeah.
I'm the
Just-
overseer. So now if we haven't had findings in the last 5 years, and then now it's under me, and now we're gonna have God forbid I miss something and I find a major or something, and that's what makes me nervous.
Just remember you are human. And they're
Yeah.
human too. They're human too. So You're going to be 10 times harder on yourself than they are. But yeah.
Yeah, I kind of know the feeling about getting balled out and stuff because my hospital system, we used to be the big dog in the state that balled out the smaller hospitals, but now we've been balled out twice, and it's just like, what kind of world do I live in now?
So this is the first time I've had to deal with that and the merge. Well, I mean, the culture change, the merge of procedures, and I mean, just most of the people that worked at my company.
Bizarro world.
So coming in and like introducing change is seems very, very much more difficult than it needs to be. And me being one of the younger ones that's at the helm,
or
telling
Twilight
these
Zone.
a little bit older people to actually
How did that
look,
go?
the change is good. I'm trying to make your job more easier.
Something like
Stop.
that.
Just cooperate, please.
I don't remember.
Ever.
Something like that though. But yeah. Zoning out right now.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to take the conversation serious, but yeah, it's the first time I've ever felt nervous about it. Like
I'm sure you'll do great, and then the next time you have to deal with it, it'll go even smoother. But you just gotta get that first one under your belt, and then you won't feel it as much.
Let us know how it goes.
Yes.
Well, of course I will. Yeah.
I'm gonna be lame.
You out?
Yes.
Good night.
Have a good evening.
Thanks for playing. Catch you later.
Hi.
Thank you. It was good to see you.
Right. And then there were 5.
Right? We're slowly taking down. I think it's about time to do.
Friday? My God, it's 9:52.
It's almost 11 here. It is early, but I explained my situation. Sleep is hard, so.
Go take your naps.
Yeah, I'll get off here and then probably doom scrolling for 3 hours, or void scrolling, or what do we call it? Abyss scrolling. Yeah, all those terms for it. Yes.
Well, Mona, since it's your 7 year affiliate anniversary, I think you've earned a song.
Oh.
Pick out a song. We'll sing.
Pick out a song. Oh my God. If Rain was here, I would just pick Angel with a Shotgun and make her happy. She already went to sleep. Oh, thank you, Wiggles. Thank you for the biddies. Hype, hype, hype. Thank you, thank you, thank you. See, was that abyss scrolling would be more appropriate term? Yes, I like that one. But we're gonna raid a cat real quick. I already had them up for a few minutes now. And then we can hang out in Discord. Copy.
I will be right back.
Okay, copy pasta, guys, if you want to help me with this raid. I'm pretty sure this person's raided me before, so I'm returning the favor. Copy pasta, cookies, or riot. And help me out, but thank you for jumping in, Rando. Sorry you're not staying on any later. Poor Jeff, he missed it too. He's like, if you're on super late, I'll come say hi when I get off work. Oh, but I'm so tired. He's probably just about to get off. Okay, bye. Thank you, artist. Thank you.
Nice.
But yes, thank you all guys for the love. Thank you for being here. Thank you for helping me celebrate my anniversary stream. Thank you all for everything. I appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome and amazing, and I can't wait to keep being here and do even more with you guys coming up this year. About time you ended your stream. Speaking of cats, imagine running into one capable of human speech. That would kind of be scary and cool at the same time. I would want to know the personality. I can just only imagine. No worries, Rano. No worries. Life comes first. If you make it to the end of stream, you make it to the end of the stream. I appreciate you being here, even if it's just 5 minutes. You've been here much longer than 5 minutes, but I'm just saying. Alright, good night all. It's running away with me. Catch you next time. Bye.